Howdy everyone, and welcome to RAZZLEcast. I'm your host, Zachary Maurer. And as always, I'm joined by two boys who survived the snap, Ryan Havens.
I am Groot.
And Alan Havens.
I am Steve Rogers.
And today's show will be part 2 of our 2 weeks of Marvel Madness, in which we rate every movie in the MCU and continue our Twitter talk about our favorite Avengers. So get ready, folks. We're in the Endgame now. This is RAZZLEcast episode 28, Endgame. So, boys, this is our second week of Marvel movies. I am excited. How are you guys? Are you excited?
I don't feel so good.
No,
Mr. Stark.
I feel pumped, and I'm actually a little sad because I don't have anything else to watch. I can't watch Endgame for a few days.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty excited. Thanks for the segue. Because literally, well, not literally, but as soon as we are done recording this, I get to go watch Avengers Endgame early. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to flex about this a lot.
We hate you, Ryan.
For reference, we're recording this on a Tuesday.
Yeah, so if you guys check out on this episode will be out on Wednesday, so I'll have already seen it. So I'm already on the other side. So check out my Twitter if you want to see my thoughts. I'm plugging my Twitter early. You'll see my thoughts on the movie. Obviously, I'm not going to hit on any spoilers at all. I'll basically probably I don't know if I'll maybe give a score if I have one already, and I'll just give my brief thoughts without like saying anything about the movie.
Excellent. I can't wait. You could please check out Ryan's Twitter directly, but if not, the Razzle account I'm sure will retweet it as well. So yeah. Either way, you're going to see Ryan's tweet. So guys, if people are only hopping into this part 2 episode, I advise you go back and listen to part 1. But if you're not going to do that, you're just interested in what we're doing here today. We are rewatching every movie in the MCU.
We already did.
We are. Yeah, we did.
We're going to do it right now.
We're watching them all live.
Pretty cool commentary.
Oh, God, that'd be incredibly intense.
And Disney would take it all down.
Exactly. Yeah, not worth it. So we already watched all the movies in the MCU, and we are going to be rating and discussing all of those movies right here, right now. So get excited and get pumped. We're going to start off with our first movie of the night, which is Ant-Man. So, Alan, do you want to give us your initial thoughts on Ant-Man?
Yeah. So we decided to do this where we had Ant-Man be the first film that we were going to cover, even though it's technically the last in phase 2, because that's how it broke up nicely for us. I really like Ant-Man. I think it's a really fun movie. I think it's that perfect blend of, funny and, still feeling like that, like an adventure Marvel movie. It's a heist film. This was back when Marvel was still really doing like each film kind of like almost had a different genre. And Ant-Man kind of filled that like heist genre that was like, I don't know. I think it's really fun. I think that the actors are all great in it. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Even Corey Stoll, who plays Darren Cross, who I don't like his character. I don't think that he's necessarily bad in it. But yeah, I mean, Michael Pena is great. So there's so much to like about this. But yeah, I'll keep my thoughts brief. We'll probably touch more from there.
Fantastic. Ryan, what is your brief thoughts on Ant-Man?
Sure. So when I initially saw this, I saw it with Zach, and we watched it twice in the same night, which I think is maybe the only time I've ever done that with a movie. I don't know if I've ever done that. Because we saw it, and then we saw it with you, Alan, afterwards. I don't know if you remember that night.
I don't.
Me and Zach had watched it, and then we went to pick you up. I think you were working, and then we went to go see it again.
And then we filmed the discussion on.
Yeah, you actually check out. It's super old.
Yeah.
So you can tell if you watch that, you'll see like we talked about it for like 30 minutes. I loved it, and I still like it in this rewatch and everything, but I don't like it as much. It definitely feels like one of the more mediocre movies, in my opinion. But either way, I love the sense of humor. It made me laugh a lot, and I still really like the characters, and I think that's the best part of the movie is specifically Scott Lang. And I love Hank Pym a lot. And I think Michael Douglas, like, actually bringing it to the movie, and that's actually something I even said in the original discussion video, I think, was one of the major keys we hit on, is just Michael Douglas, like, actually gives a shit. And that's so cool to see. Like he didn't phone it in on this like weird project that he had originally signed on with Edgar Wright, and then Edgar Wright dropped out, and he still took it seriously. It was really cool, and I love his character even going forward. But we'll talk more.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really like this movie. I think I'm with you, Ryan, where I ended up. I think I liked it more in the beginning. But I still really enjoy the movie. I like how small the movie feels. Where like I guess sort of towards the end of the movie they try to make the stakes a little larger, but at the end of the day, I just enjoy that it's sort of a heist movie. I think that Scott Lang is really really fun. And I also like enjoy his personal stakes.
I also just love Paul Rudd.
Daughter. I also love Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's amazing.
Go ahead.
But I agree with you on Hank Pym as well. I really enjoy Hank Pym. Basically, I think all the character work is something I really, really enjoy about this, and something I'm not necessarily a fan of in Ant-Man and the Wasp. A bit of a spoiler warning for one of our discussions later. Yeah, so I guess we can sort of hop into like our full-blown thoughts on Ant-Man here. Alan, you had mentioned Yellow Jacket, Darren Cross, and you said that you weren't really a big fan of him. Do you want to sort of expand on that a little bit?
So yeah, Ryan and I have talked about this a lot. I think we've probably talked to you about it as well. But the problem is that he's just too, and this is the case with a lot of Marvel villains. He's kind of like too evil and like too gleeful about it, but like not in a way that's like a Maleficent or something like that. And then their justification for it, that it's like, hey, by the way, spoilers for all these movies.
Very true.
Their justification for it, where it's like, oh, the particles affecting them, even though that was never really brought up to even be like possible.
Just having an off like sentence about like someone saying that is such a horrible way of revealing that.
Yeah, it's like someone's like,
Darren, the particles are messing with your mind.
It was almost like they didn't think that in the script, and they're like, "Fuck, we need a reason for him to be this." Like they filmed the scene where he turned the guy into like a booger, and like
I always thought it looked like ketchup. But like the pre-cum ketchup. Like, didn't need to say that.
Pre-cum ketchup.
I feel like that's like the official term, though. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but no, the ketchup juice that like fucking comes out when you tilt the bottle over, but you're not squeezing. I know what you mean.
Anyway,
it happens a lot in mustard.
Anyway, I don't even remember the point I was making. I was just saying, it's like they forgot how evil they made him that evil, and then they just changed their minds and like threw in that line. But pre-cum ketchup. That's what I think one of my favorite lines in the movie of being just pretty bad for his character. That I just rolled my eyes at, so I completely forgot about it, was when the one fucking SHIELD agent that Hank Pym hits in the face in the beginning works for Hydra, and like the way that he says it, he's like, oh, it turns out that they work for Hydra. He's like, oh yeah, it turns out that my buyers work for Hydra, and I'm enjoying myself. It's like, get the fuck out of here. That dumbass line. Why'd they have to work for Hydra also? It could have been equally as bad if he sold it to other private organizations. It still could have been bad. It didn't have to make it Hydra.
This actually was
name drop.
And this was another thing. This is going to go a little bit outside of Ant-Man, but it's sort of MCU talking. Ryan and I talked about this earlier, and I just started to realize something after that, where Hydra's just kind of evil, and I know Hydra is supposed to be evil, but like, does anybody know what Hydra's doing other than just trying to take over the world? Like in the events of, like, they're not Nazis. Because he specifically is like, right. Oh, I don't really agree with Hitler. And nowadays, they're still not Nazis. But they're just kind of, like, evil, I think. And trying to take over the world. But, like, I don't know what they do other than just, like, try to take over the world. I think Hydra's just kind of a little bit, like, of almost a scapegoat to just kind of be like, we need an evil. So, Hydra. And I think that's sort of, I don't know.
Well, it's not explained in Ant-Man, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
I don't know, you guys. What else do you guys have? I mean, I think one of my favorite parts about this movie. I don't mean to get away from the Hydra thing. Do you want? We can keep going into.
No, I was just saying, like, I knew it wasn't like part of the movie or anything like that. I was like, I just knew it was a discussion we had, and I figured we were just going all MCU, but it really doesn't matter. We didn't really. If nobody has anything to add, I was just saying, I think it was kind of. I think it's just kind of odd that we just kind of accept it. Like, this group, it's like, oh, they're bad, but like, I don't know, like, a lot of evil groups, they're like try to rationalize why they're bad or anything like that, but I think that they're just kind of like, no, we like to take out the people who could threaten us, and it's like, from doing what? I don't know. But yeah, we can go back to Ant-Man. It's fine. I took a sip of a drink, so I figured somebody would say something.
No, so we sort of talked about how we don't all really love Darren Cross, but how do we feel about Ant-Man and his sort of group of friends? Like one thing I enjoyed a lot the first time I saw it, and again in the subsequent rewatches, is I really enjoyed Michael Pena's character in this first movie. I think he's used just enough, and I think his comedy is very funny. Like I like all the lines he has to tell.
Yeah, and what I like about his character also, and I see a lot of people give, like, when I see reviews online and stuff, people talking about, like, the movies, they always talk shit about these characters, and I really like them.
Yeah.
Luis, played by Michael Pena, and Dave, played by T.I., and who was the last guy?
Is he not on our list?
Is it Kurt? Is it David?
No.
Oh,
I think it might be Kurt, because Paxton is the
Anyway, the trio, the three wombats, as Hank Pym says. I actually really like their characters. I think they're like stereotypes, but it works for what they're doing. I think that's like why they're kind of funny, and they're like three complete like opposites, but they like work well off of each other. And I think I actually think they have a lot of really funny lines. Like I actually kind of really enjoy them, especially my favorite scene in the movie, and I'm sure your guys' favorite movie also is Luis's stories, which I think are just super funny.
They're really funny. They're paced really well. They're really nice and quick, and I enjoy that a lot. How do we like Hank's really? I mean, not Hank. Sorry. Well, we could actually talk about Hank's relationship to his daughter, but I was going to talk about Scott's relationship with his daughter. I think that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I really enjoy his scenes with Cassie, and I think the child actor actually does a really good job as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I really like in this movie. We'll get later to the next movie. Actually, I think I like it a little bit more in the next movie, even.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes,
but because I think that they spend more time with it, and but yeah, no, I think I really like those parts of this movie as well. Yeah.
So let's sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I also, this is another thing. It's weird because we watched both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, so like I'm kind of including some of that too, even though we'll get to it later. But I do like, and more so in the next film, I do like the way they do the relationship between Paul Rudd's Scott Lang and his ex-wife Maggie and Paxton. I like it more in the second movie. This one they only do it kind of at the end, but they kind of like do. Like, a lot of times when you see, like, you know, like, parents that split up in movies and stuff like that, it's always handled kind of, like, heavy-handedly. And they do sort of, in the beginning, you know, have him be like, oh, I hate that guy, and that guy's kind of a dick. But, like, he kind of, like, gets to the, oh, you know, he's a good guy, and he's good for you. And, like, I think that that's, like, probably, like, really well handled, especially for probably a lot of, you know, children who have, you know, separated parents and stuff like that. I mean, I can't speak for, you know, myself personally, but I think it's, like, I think that that's really nice how they handle it, especially in the second movie, which I know we're not talking about now. But towards the end of this movie where everything's kind of better handled, I think that that's really nice too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So let's talk about Hank Pym and Hope as well. So because we haven't talked about those characters, and Ryan, you mentioned how much you like Hank Pym and Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Like Hank Pym's relationship with his daughter?
Well, we can talk about his relationship with his daughter and just the characters in general.
I think one of the things I really like about Hank Pym, because famously in the comics, Hank Pym is probably the biggest asshole in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, even more so than Stark, who is also portrayed as a super big asshole in the MCU in the Marvel comics. But I think they do an excellent job in this movie, kind of like doing that without going like too far, because like. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously in the comics, like when I say he's like a piece of shit, he's a really piece of shit. Like he's actually like a wife beater. So he's actually kind of just a straight up piece of shit in the comics.
Yeah.
But they obviously don't go that far, which is good. You really couldn't do that and make him any bit redeemable. So I really like the kind of way they make him an asshole, and I think they do it even better in the next movie. But we'll get to that. And I just like how there's certain things I like about his character. Like I like that he's trying to protect his daughter in this movie, and that's why he's not letting her go. And Scott, he's literally using Scott as just like a scapegoat,
right? Because he's expendable.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's using Scott because Scott has skill, and if he dies, he dies. And that's it. He'd rather, you know what I mean? I don't know. I overall like how, and I just love. I don't know. I guess that's all I have for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, do we have any last second thoughts about Ant-Man? I'm not sure we have to spend much more time on it. We're gonna get to Ant-Man and the Wasp, so we can sort of go ahead.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the Wasp in the second one, but yeah, I think Evangeline Lilly is still good as Hope. I don't think they know exactly what they want to do with her yet, or they're not willing to show the cards of what they want to do with her yet in this film. I do sort of dislike, because it happens in a lot of movies, it's kind of a trope, and it's kind of always kind of dumb when they decide to do I decided to withhold information from you to protect you. I never feel like that really works, and in this film I think they do it with her. I didn't tell you how your mother died, and then I was distant because it was protecting you, and I don't that never works for me.
I actually thought of a couple other things that I was going to mention about this movie, but I completely forgot. If that's okay.
No, please, yeah.
So a couple things, and I might be wrong about one thing, but I also think this movie is super great that it introduces the superpower of being able to change into a suit in 5 seconds. How the fuck does he put that suit on in like the 6 seconds? In the jail cell, yeah. And when Corey Stoll, what's his name, the Yellow Jacket, Darren Cross puts his whole costume on in the fucking helicopter.
Yeah.
As like Ant-Man's hanging off before he comes back in. I thought that was pretty funny.
When technology
whatever, it is
magic.
what it is. I just think it's kind of funny.
What I thought was funny about the cell scene was, especially when they cut back to him after they're showing the countdown, he's putting his gloves on, and that takes at least 5 seconds. It's just like, it's just funny. I have another complaint about the movie just in general, and this might be with my complete disregard or my complete misunderstanding of the law. So I may sound like a moron for this. But did Hank Pym have to show up to try to sneak Scott Lang out? Or could he have just showed up and say, he didn't trespass, it's my house, I was letting him in. I was testing him.
One who called.
Yeah, but it's Hank Pym's house.
I think...
Could he not show up and bring her? Why not? And say, no, he didn't sneak in, it was a misunderstanding.
I think he could have not pressed charges, but I
think he still would have been.
Would it still be, if it's his house and he said he's not trespassing, like, he couldn't have... It's his house.
Yeah.
Could he not have gone and say, he's not trespassing, I was testing him?
I think so, but he's like an ex-con, so I feel like
But would he not be able to show up and...
I'm not sure, honestly.
I'm pretty sure... I mean, I don't study the law.
I think you could...
But could you, like...
Because what if there was a misunderstanding? What if you were breaking into it? What if somebody texted you and asked you to get into your house by going through the window and a police stop by?
To me,
they would arrest you, but if you went to go...
If I went to go in there and say, no, he wasn't sneaking in, my daughter misunderstood. I know him, we were testing something.
Yeah, I think
I could have said anything.
I think you're
That's
right.
my kink. It's my kink. That's my boyfriend. Like, that he, like...
I think you're right.
So I don't understand.
Except when he gets arrested, he said, "I was returning something I stole." So I know the police can. The thing is, the police can also press charges on you if they think you broke the law.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I had the exact same thought.
But you wouldn't. But you would think, like, if he showed up and he was like,
he
I know this guy. That
did seem weird when he was like, "I'm your lawyer." He could have just said it was my house. Like,
yeah.
Thankfully, no one has to answer for breaking out of prison.
That's like it's not a huge deal. I was just thinking about the whole movie. I was just like, why couldn't he just show up and be like, yeah, it's okay, it's my house, it's fine, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on now.
All right. So, do we want to give scores? Alan, what's your score for Ant-Man?
Okay, I gave Ant-Man a 7 out of 10. Really enjoyed it.
Excellent, Ryan. What is your score for Ant-Man?
I give Ant-Man a 6 out of 10. I also enjoyed it.
And I gave Ant-Man a 7 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. So let's move on here to Captain America: Civil War, the next movie in our rewatch. So Ryan, would you like to give your brief thoughts on Captain America: Civil War?
Sure. I remember this is a movie that's very dear to my heart because it brought Spider-Man to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you don't know anything about me, as I say, I've said multiple times on this podcast that Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character. Also, Batman's my favorite DC character because I'm a basic bitch.
There we go.
That's the full quote I always say. So that was all. I remember like that first moment when Spider-Man popped up and when Queens hit when Queens popped in, I was like shaking. I was so excited because I'd been waiting for that moment. But anyway, beyond all that, the movie is much better. Not much better than I remembered, but I'm going to make a comparison because I think it's only fair. This movie is so much better than Winter Soldier, more so than I had anticipated. Because when I remember we talked about Winter Soldier last week, and you can see my opinions on that movie, which I still like it. I actually moved that score down to a 7.5. Winter Soldier. I'm just saying that now. I've adjusted some of my scores. We'll talk about our ratings at the end. But I feel like Civil War does like a lot of things that Winter Soldier was trying to do, but just better. And I think that's kind of one of the things I have learned from the Russos as the movies have gone along, that I feel like they've just improved every time. That's just a good general thoughts, and I'll let you guys jump in because there's a lot to say about this movie. And I have a lot of things I have to say as well, but we'll pass it around.
Yep. All right. Excellent. Alan, would you like to give your brief thoughts on Captain America: Civil War?
Okay, so I'm not using hyperbole here when I say that this is the best. This is the best that the MCU has to offer, in my opinion.
Spoiler alert: we're gonna get to our rankings
I didn't
later.
Say it was number one. I just said it was the best. Fuck. I think Civil War is. I mean, we're gonna give numbers to everything, and it's gonna be at the top with the numbers. Spoilers for at the end of this conversation. Civil War is fantastic. It is. I think it's just amazing. I think that it's amazing that it's built up. Nothing feels unnatural. It feels, for Captain America, a perfect transition from where he was in Winter Soldier, then Age of Ultron. The Russos really know how to write this character. This would be the first time they're writing Tony Stark. They really know how to write Tony Stark as well. I think that this movie is just amazing. It's hard for me to even put into words. I think that it's incredible that this movie has the task of introducing us to Black Panther and Spider-Man, and it doesn't miss a beat, the entire way. I think that this movie is awesome. There's something I really want to talk about, but I don't want to put it in brief thoughts because I want to give Zach a chance to give his brief thoughts. But I can't say enough about this movie, and I'm sure I'll get more time to.
So my brief thoughts are, I don't really want to say much because I want to hop into this big time discussion, other than I love this movie. And for a little bit, this was... So it was either Winter Soldier or Captain America: Civil War is what I thought was the best the MCU had to offer. I've kind of changed that opinion, but I absolutely love this movie. And I remember leaving the theater and thinking that the third movie in the Captain America trilogy, the people were joking around. It was like the second and a half Avengers movie. Had no reason being this good, and it really is. It blows me away. I think I'm sure we'll hop into why Zemo is such a good villain, but I love Zemo as a villain, and I think that this movie just handles everything, especially Captain America and Tony Stark's characters, so incredibly well. So, Alan, what was that big thing that you said that you wanted to talk about that you didn't want to mention right there?
So I don't know where you guys are, and I texted you guys this, and I think I'm going to be in the minority, but I actually I agree with Tony Stark. I actually think he's correct. I don't know if you guys are in different boats, but when I first saw this movie, I remembered thinking there's no way that you could side with Tony Stark. He's clearly the wrong one in this. But as I watched it this time, I remembered thinking I actually think, similarly to how I said back in the last episode when we talked about Iron Man 2, and I was like, well, no, because I think he's wrong. He probably shouldn't be able to just, it's a major fucking weapon. He shouldn't be able to just not register without the government. I see Cap's opinion.
So I think, in my opinion, I mean, if we're going to really get, I don't want to know if we need to get into a debate, but I think they're both right and wrong. And I think that's a big point of the movie. There's no right answer, because you see the flaw. There's huge flaws on both sides. Mm-hmm. And right in the beginning of the movie, you see the flaw in Captain America's side, because you see all the casualties and you see what Thaddeus Ross is talking about and what happens and where does the blame fall, and who takes responsibility. And they do a good job of hammering that in the beginning. But then you see by the end that you're then fighting on behalf of interests of others that you can't necessarily always trust, other than your own instincts, and not being able to act on something when you say it, when you see something when they see something is happening and the government wouldn't allow it. And this potential threat could have been happening before their eyes. So I think the point is there's gray area and there's no right or wrong answer.
Well, especially
it's not
considering
left or right.
the events of Winter Soldier, I completely understand why he says that.
Yeah, that's what I think is so great, is I
like,
can buy both of their opinions so well. And I agree. Sorry, I just totally interrupted you, Alan.
Sure.
But
Zach, we do that to you all the time.
No, we do that to you all the time. Also, we both talked about it and didn't give you a chance because I started jumping in. So no, go ahead.
But no, I think I lean more towards siding with Cap, but just because I see how I think just because of knowing what he went through in Winter Soldier, but what's so brilliant is that you do see it from both sides. You can't watch that beginning part where the mom is telling Tony Stark about how her son died in Sokovia and not help but feel like the Avengers need some sort of guidance. To understand how Tony is driven by guilt is so important, and I think such beautiful writing, but to also understand how Cap is fueled by the fact that everything he sort of lived his life to up to this point of these sort of establishments of authority that he's sort of put his whole trust in and worldview in have had agendas that haven't fit his sort of moral compass, and so I think that's what I love is how well the movie is written, basically, is what I'm saying, and how I can see both sides.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I completely agree. I think for me, it's like the reason that I more side with Iron Man is while I see like Hydra infiltrated like a large government organization. For me, I'm like, okay, we need to fix that rather than say that everyone kind of can almost vigilante take. This is a supernatural world where we know that Captain America is going to make the right call. But if I'm like, putting it into the real world. Overall, I think that the fact that we can have this discussion is incredible. And I'm going to go, unfortunately, shit on DC for a second. This is like this sort of debate was everything I wished that we could have gotten in Batman versus Superman. Where in Batman versus Superman, it's clear that Batman is wrong in his thing. They don't attempt to make it different.
Even though it's a very similar argument.
Yeah. But they like make it so clearly that he just doesn't it is, but like they make it so they don't do it as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, not even close. Because this movie, I think the major thing is you could take either side or sit somewhere in the middle like I am. And I think that's super interesting. I think that, and that's one of the best parts about this movie and about, I think, what Winter Soldier did as well, was just gray area in general. And that's one thing the Russos have been doing, is kind of getting away from like the good versus evil type situation. They've done this with all of their films, is having dynamic characters that are acting on their own wills and not acting on like the evil for the sake of evil or good for the sake of good. And that's one of the things I really like also about this movie. The only like it's not even evil for the sake of evil, because you wanted to talk about Daniel Bruhl's helmet Zemo. Yeah. I think that's a good place to start. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I for the first part, what I think is so great is he wins. Like, let's talk about that first. Like,
especially because
and the implications of what he did is relevant even to now where we're coming into Endgame.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
And no, I was going to say that exact same thing. And how his plan is, he kills people. Like, he kills the psychologist. He kills T'Chaka. He kills a lot of people, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think I would respond that way. I wouldn't respond that way. I don't think I could ever kill somebody.
I hope not.
No, but like I'm saying, I don't think I could ever kill somebody. But like, he lost everything, and I understand his motivation, and I just think he's so. I think that's important, because you have to. If he's not a mustache twirling villain, he's a man who has a calculated plan, and he's doing what he feels is necessary.
There's definite empathy for the character.
There's so much empathy, and that's the growth of T'Challa's character as well.
Yep.
By the way,
I was about to
Black Panther is one of the best characters in this movie, and he's better in this movie than he is in his own movie.
Thank you. I was about to say the same thing.
Like his character arc is incredible in this movie.
His character arc of becoming prince to king in this movie is fucking incredible. And this whole movie, jumping off of even the what we were talking about with Helmut Zemo, is the whole movie is about revenge. That's like the major theme of the movie, and how each of the characters react to this. Then that's what the whole movie is, and how they each respond. And the strongest character by the end of it to throw away all resentment and all of his feelings of revenge, who was the most vengeful in the beginning, was T'Challa, Black Panther, because he's a king. And he throws it all away and saves the man that killed his father. He saves him from killing himself. What a fucking amazing moment. And what a fucking amazing conversation at the end on the mountaintop between those two. It's so... Like, honestly, it's so fucking good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
And if I may, I did notice one thing. When I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and I hope that's okay, but I'm the host, so fuck it. It's okay. Watching Black Panther, when the fact that he stops Zemo from killing himself here, but gives Killmonger the satisfaction of the death that he wants in Black Panther is incredible poetic storytelling. I never noticed that before, and I'm such a big fan of that.
I was thinking the same thing.
But anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I actually wanted to see, because I wanted to see what your guys' opinions were. This is like a little bit of like a theory craft type thing that I think would be just kind of fun. In the events of Civil War, and I don't know if the directors have commented on it, if Thor and Hulk were there, where do you think they would side? Because I know at least where I'm positive where Hulk would side, and it's kind of hinted at even in the movie, that when Tony Stark says to Natasha, any chance that you have gotten a hold of Banner, and she's like, do you really think he'd be on our side? I'm positive he would not be on Tony Stark's side. Just because the idea of him having to... The collateral damage is just kind of part of Hulk. And the idea of him registering and having
I think he'd be on Tony's side.
I'm positive he wouldn't.
See, I think it'd be more conflicting because Banner would also feel some guilt for the creation of Ultron, I think. And so there might be some sort of some guilt there as well. I'm not sure.
I think Banner is someone that's fully accepting of responsibility for everything that Hulk does. I don't think he's...
I don't think he never wanted to be a weapon for the government. Like, that was never... It'd
be sick to see Thor and Hulk in that airplane scene.
Yeah.
Which I think is also worth talking about.
Oh, yeah. That would have been crazy. The thing is that, like, I think the problem was that Thor and Hulk are both pretty fucking overpowered. I mean, they could have fought each other.
I honestly don't know Thor. I honestly don't know if Thor would have much of an opinion. I think he'd take more Cap's side, I guess. But I also... I think this is so underneath him. I'm not sure how much he would. He if anything, I'm sure he would take Cap's side. But I think more so than anything, he would like say it's petty and try to make them stop.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think Thor fits in this movie.
No,
I just thought it was interesting to think about. And Fury would have been another one that would have been interesting to see in Civil War.
Fury would have been full blown Cap's side. I mean,
I think I agree. But before Winter Soldier, he would have been on Iron Man's side. I think. But by the end of Winter Soldier.
But anyway, back to. I think it'd be fun. I think we should talk about. I think at least two more things before we move on from this movie. Let's talk. I would like to talk about a few more of the side characters, specifically Spider-Man and Ant-Man. Their kind of role in the movie, which I think is really neat. And I'd also like to talk about
the airport.
There's just the airport scene in general. And well, I guess we can talk about the ending a little bit too. So I guess maybe we can start on some of the characters like Ant-Man.
Sure. Actually, just speaking to Spider-Man and Ant-Man, I think that these are both of those characters' inclusions were mistakes by not by the directors, by Steve Rogers and Iron Man. I think that Iron Man should have not brought a kid in. I think that was something that he did wrong.
I think that's one of those things that I understand, that's one of those things that you put Spider-Man in the movie.
I just mean, like, I think he took advantage of his star power to bring Spider-Man in, because I think Spider-Man
would have sided with
Spider-Man
Cap
doesn't
for
actually know why he's fighting. He just knows Captain America is wrong.
They do an excellent job of that, because also he would have sided with Cap for sure.
Yeah.
And I love the conversation that Tony, like that whole scene of introducing Peter and him talking to Tony, I thought was just an incredible scene in general. And I loved how, and it really it goes forward to kind of the father-son-esque relationship they kind of have.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like this unspoken kind of like how much Peter looks up to Tony Stark and how much Tony Stark looks at Peter like a surrogate son.
Yeah.
I think for Ant-Man, actually also similarly with Tony bringing in Hawkeye, I think that those were both incorrect just based off of the fact that they know the implications that it would have for their kids.
Yeah.
I think that was probably something that they should have not put them into.
Yeah.
I guess that was more Falcon that brought Ant-Man in. But
yeah.
But as a movie, fucking loved it, and those characters are awesome. I also think it speaks, and seeing Ant-Man interact was awesome.
But I do also think it speaks to the fact that, like, I think if I just personally, this isn't said in the movie, but I think if Hawkeye said he didn't want to come, Cap would have obviously not made him come, and I think that says a lot to who Cap is as a person. That Hawkeye, I think you're also willing to. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Hawkeye.
No, I interrupted you. I was just gonna say, I also think what your point is good, and I think Alan, you're underestimating the characters a bit and how much they're not being forced to do anything.
Right.
They want to do it. Even Ant-Man is like.
No, I
doing
know
it because
but
he's asked because he's asked and he wants to answer the call because he respects Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider-Man does it because he respects Tony Stark, and they're choosing to do it. So maybe they shouldn't have been invited. But anyway,
it's not.
I wanted to get into just
the airport scene itself.
It doesn't matter. I was talking about just specific. I was going to get to the airport scene, but I guess we kind of touched on. Yeah, let's just hop into the airport scene. Just how cool it is. Airport
scene's fucking cool.
It's great.
It's the money shot of the entire movie. It's fun. It's fucking fun.
And there's sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was gonna say, and there's really excellent character work being done throughout the whole scene as well. Like, I love Spider-Man and Captain America's scene together. Where he's like, "Hey, where are you from, kid?" And he's like, "Queens, Brooklyn." And like, I just think that's really great. And to me, like, I don't know if I'm putting some of my own feelings onto that, but I always got like sort of a subtext where like Cap's sort of just mentoring Spider-Man as he fights him anyway. Like, it's interesting to me. Like, I just find the whole thing to be really great. And like, I love T'Challa's line where. What is somebody? He's like, I don't care.
When Hawkeye is like, I'm Clint, by the way, and he's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
that shit is he's so badass in this whole movie. Yeah. He's the most badass character of all of the MCU in this movie alone.
Hell yeah.
I mean, he's badass. He's really cool, badass and cool in Black Panther, his solo movie.
He's really good in that too.
But he's so fucking badass in this movie. Like, my opinion on the airport scene, it's one of the most like nerdgasm-y scenes in all of the MCU. It's just really fucking cool. It's just a really like awesome fight, bringing everyone together kind of in the same spot in Germany. And there's obvious implications of this. But I think the only thing I'll say about it, even though I love the scene and I've rewatched it, even just the scene alone, because of how fucking just ultimately just fun it is that my only problem is I think it feels a little inconsequential at times, because you get some amazing, awesome, fun to watch moments, but it doesn't have the same like weight to the fight that a fight like the last fight between Cap and Tony, that is just makes me an emotional fucking wreck.
Yeah.
Because of just how, like, for one, how good the fucking acting is, and the build up to that moment, and then like fucking Robert Downey Jr. just brings it.
What does he say? Scene. Like, I don't care. He killed my mom. Like,
when that scene when he realizes, and like even the fate, like the look, he's like, did you know? And like the disappointed and like angry look he gives Cap before like bitch slapping him and just like relentlessly chasing after, because he was fueled by his revenge.
Tony, he's my friend. Again,
what the whole movie's about. Yeah, Tony's my friend. So was I.
Oh, he's so fucking good.
Yeah. That conflict is like, but the contrast between that and the airport scene, where I think the airport scene doesn't have the same weight to it. But it's still campy, fun comic book action, and it gives me really cool Spider-Man action where they make him fucking OP still. So I love that. Yeah, and there's also just some really funny moments in there too. Like you get the start. I mean, you get it a little bit earlier, like between Bucky and Sam. Their interactions together are really great.
I hate
really
you.
Funny and great.
He's like,
yeah, and like also just showcasing all of like what they can do.
Yeah.
And even like some throwaway lines like Clint like oh, you done playing golf? I shot 18, hit 18, never seen a miss. I don't know why I like that line.
Yeah.
It's dumb, but I like it.
Good.
It's campy and it's fun.
I love I love Ant-Man's little quick like, here's your shield, Captain America.
yeah. Ant-Man is great, and he becomes Giant Man, and and then Iron Man's flying through the sky, and he's like, "Does anybody have any miraculous powers they would like to?" I love that line.
I feel like we have to talk about real quick. I'm sorry, I'm really stretching this out, but I love the Captain America Civil War. There's just like really great writing going on. With like, I love Cap's. Obviously, Cap's line everyone knows about, but he's like, I could do this all day. That's just incredible.
Yeah, that callback.
I also love what Sharon Carter says about Peggy when she's like, compromise where you can, where
the
you
famous
can't, don't. Like,
comic book line.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just like that's so good. I also love the scene where Tony's like, these two pens signed the land lease bill, like, and then
sorry to break up the set.
Cap's like, sorry to break up the set. Yeah, it's just like, oh, such good writing.
This whole
a lot of really snappy, good quips and good lines.
Yeah,
where I complained
more,
a little sharper, a little punchier. There's a lot of really good, and that's one of the things the Russos have become pretty much staples of their Marvel movies.
There's so much in this movie, but I don't think we can.
I was gonna say I don't think we can go on any longer. I think we have to move on.
Of these movies,
let's just move on.
We probably need to move off Civil War. Well, we got to get our scores.
Yeah, Alan, can you give me your score for Captain America: Civil War?
As I said, this is one of the best that Marvel can give. I'll say it that this time. It's a 9 out of 10, same as the score that I gave for Guardians of the Galaxy. Excellent.
Ryan, your score for Captain America: Civil War?
I really love this movie. I give it an 8.5.
And I also really love this movie. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10 as well. Okay, moving on to another movie, Doctor Strange, with Benedict Cumberbatch. I'll give my brief thoughts on this one. Real quick, you should check out my review of Doctor Strange. I'll have it linked in the description box. That'll
be spoiler free.
That is a spoiler-free review. Will have full spoilers. There's really probably no point in watching it, but go ahead and do it anyway.
But not plugged.
It's
unplugged.
Yes, it's
don't fucking watch that review.
Please don't fucking
Zach
watch
unplugs.
that review. Doctor Strange is a movie that I remember seeing in theaters and I was underwhelmed by it, and I would say that I'm probably equally as underwhelmed to Doctor Strange now that I rewatched it as well. That's, you know what, I'm gonna leave it pretty bare like that, and then we can sort of get into more things as the discussion expands. Alan, what are your brief thoughts on Doctor Strange?
If you have watched the entire MCU to this point and you're not sure if you're interested, which would be very difficult to do this far in, you could 100% skip Doctor Strange, pick up with his character in the small seed in Thor Ragnarok and in Infinity War, and I don't think you'd be that mad. I think this movie's good. It's fine, actually, is probably where I'd put it. I think it's fine. There's some things I like. I really like Benedict Cumberbatch, and he only gets better. I'm still not sure on Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm excited to see where they go with him in the future when he can really be a villain, but I felt like his turn just doesn't make any sense. That's the thing. I really like Benedict Cumberbatch and don't really like a lot of other things. I like Wong a little bit, but he's a lot of that is how much more I like him in later stuff.
In Infinity War.
In Infinity War, yeah. So I don't even know that he's that great.
I like
the
Wong
ancient one is
5
okay.
seconds in Infinity War.
Yeah, like the ancient one is okay. That's the thing. I just really like Benedict Cumberbatch, and that carries the movie to the rating that I give it at the end of this. Sorry, I made that a little long.
No, that's fine. Ryan?
So I'm gonna put this movie right up there with like Thor and Ant-Man and all those other movies that I think are kind of like in that like kind of forgettable section of the MCU. The more skippable movies in the MCU. I wouldn't say Thor 1 is skippable, but in that kind of like weird, like you kind of forget you watched it. Because I watched it initially in theaters. Yep. I have not seen it since until I rewatched it this last week. And I don't think I feel any differently, kind of like as you were saying, Zach. There are some good things about this movie. Like the visual effects are some of the best they've brought to the MCU, so I'll give it that. The visual effects are really, really good.
They look good,
in my opinion. Even though I think I like magic in the MCU and everything, but I feel like a lot of it is like more random than anything.
Yep.
Which I don't think it makes the magic like kind of like weightless, if that makes any sense. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like they took like the quantum realm from Ant-Man and just like kind of put hands inside of hands.
That's interesting that you brought this up. In my original review for Doctor Strange, I had mentioned something that I felt was a little weird, and I don't think I could really describe it well, but I thought the VFX looked good, but I didn't think that a lot of them felt necessary or fit a thematic purpose. But the way that you're describing it, as if like the magic itself sort of feels weird and wonky and sort of weightless, that's what I meant when I was saying that. And so that I love that you said that, because that just put a little bit of perspective into what I was thinking. So
yeah, it's just I don't like weird, like I love weird Marvel movies, and we're going to talk about one of those in a little bit. I love when these Marvel movies just get really fucking weird, like just over the top weird.
And
they just
run with every opportunity.
And I remember when they were talking about this movie, and they were talking about like initially like at Comic-Con and stuff, because I used to really follow that shit like hardcore. And I remember they were talking like, oh, this is like one of the weirdest movies we make. It's the riskiest movie, I think, was one of the things they were always throwing around. And this was like the safest movie they've made.
Yeah.
It's basically copy and paste Iron Man's.
It's not. I wouldn't say. I don't know if any movie is copy and paste.
I don't mean
that,
but like I meant like that in terms of safety. I tried to follow the
I see what you're saying.
Story in a lot of ways.
So yeah, this movie to me felt like I would have loved. Like I think if I had to fix this movie, I don't want to talk for too long, but sure. If I were to fix this movie, a couple things I would do was I would start the movie with him arriving at
Kamartaj.
Kamartaj, thank you. These names are not going to stick with me. When I wish they'd start when he arrives there and kind of like continuous, like don't make it as much an origin story, but give us flashbacks to give context to his character. At first, I really didn't like Rachel McAdams' character, Christine Palmer. But I was okay with her this time around. I really didn't like her the first time, and I was like fine with her. You can keep her in it to keep some grounding, but I almost would prefer if she just didn't go back to him, and that's just kind of the lesson he learns.
Well, she doesn't. They're just friends. By the end of the movie, they're really not.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they're together, but go back to him and like even have a relationship with him, because he treats her like absolute dog shit.
Yeah,
like go all in on it. Don't go halfway. Go all in on him being an asshole. Like let that be the lesson. Like and she doesn't like. There's consequence to what he does. That would have been a much less safe option. And I would have preferred, as I said, like the movie isn't told linearly. It doesn't have to be. I want this to kind of be different. The one thing I really did like about this movie that I thought was different, I loved how he resolved the problem. It wasn't just like a magic boy fight.
I will agree with you.
It was him actually having to outsmart Dormammu.
I don't. Did you ever buy Kaecilius as this like really badass wizard guy? Like,
I didn't buy him at all.
No, I didn't buy him.
And it sucks because Mads Mikkelsen is such a fucking good actor. It's such a waste.
No, they I feel like part of the issue is the unfortunate name that he wants to open the dark dimension already sounds evil. But yeah, he becomes like I could never buy him. Like I understood like he was like, oh, she's a hypocrite. And it's like, so wait, but if she's doing bad stuff, why are you
against
saying
her?
That?
Wouldn't you be?
Why are you saying that? That's the same
I like
thing?
the idea of making the Ancient One have like gray area to her and make her like she's not as good as she leads on to be.
But you can't say that she's bad and then do the same.
But she's
thing.
not bad enough.
Yeah. Like, yo, you're doing the same thing I am. So is it bad or is it good? Like what? I mean, she's just as wrong for saying they're bad, I guess. But.
Another thing I'd say, I don't mean to get away from that. I don't know.
No. I don't have anything more to add to it.
The other thing I would say also is I don't really like Doctor Strange as much as you guys, like the character as much as you guys. I think he's fine, and there's some good things about him.
I don't like this Doctor Strange.
I love him going forward, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I think
I don't like this
incredible
Doctor
going
Strange.
forward. Like in both his movies after this, the ones he's in, again, I think the big thing is like I just think it's an opportunity that it didn't seem like they went all in on what they could have done with this character. Where I think they took like half strides, as I was saying, like where I think they could have done more with this character.
To reiterate that, while Zach said that he agrees with me, I still really like. For me, I really like him in this movie, and
that's fine.
He carries the movie to.
I don't dislike. Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch is great.
I'm saying Benedict Cumberbatch is great. I'm not a giant Doctor Strange fan. In this movie, I do like him.
Yeah, no, I really like Benedict Cumberbatch. I thought he was a perfect casting. I think he does
his performance with what he's given.
Yes, I think he's great.
You just don't necessarily.
I'm not talking about Benedict Cumberbatch.
I 100% agree.
And I only have one more thing really to say about the movie because I don't think there's a ton to be said. And I'm sorry, I kind of feel like I've been ever since you guys talked. I feel like
no, it's fine. I don't have a lot to say about Doctor Strange. So
the one thing that I really don't like about this movie, the one element is Mordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, which I think is another fucking waste. Because Chiwetel Ejiofor, if you guys know, I don't know if I mentioned the podcast, he's one of my favorite actors working. I think he's a fucking terribly underrated actor. I think he's incredible. I love everything he does. But his character I thought was off to a great start. And then I think they completely blow it by making him just go completely evil at the end with the no more wizards shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And again, I think this again, like one of the other things I would have fixed about this movie is just like make Doctor Strange, and this is one of the major things I always say about this movie, like make this movie take place longer. I say this about the same thing about Thor. Like make the middle take place over like years. Why not? Make it take place over months. I mean, make it taking place over months, but
build
it's not
the bond
clear.
between him and Mordo, and also give more hints as to Mordo,
and also make Doctor Strange. I know Doctor Strange is a quick learner, and that's what talk about his photographic memory helps him a lot. It's kind of natural to him. But like, how is he beating up all these fucking dark wizards?
I don't know
who have had years of training. Like, I know he's kind of stumbling around. And it's kind of an accident.
There is a time lapse. I don't know how long the time
make
lapse
it more
is.
clear then. And I just think
because he does undergo like shaving and all that stuff. That could take.
Well, they also talk about because when he comes back, Rachel McAdams' character, which I can't remember her name all of a sudden, is like, oh, after all this time, whatever. But like, I think they should make it more clear.
I don't know how long it is.
That it was like years. It had been 3 years. Why not? There's no reason why not to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
we
don't.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how. And if you have to look it up to find out how long it is, because they probably have it somewhere, then that's not explicit enough.
Yeah. But that's kind of all I have about this movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also,
I don't have much more to
this
add.
is something that bothers me, just as somebody who cares about magic in movies. The mirror dimension breaks this movie. Like, if the idea of the mirror dimension just breaks things, sort of like how the idea of Avada Kedavra and Harry Potter just breaks things because it's just a gun. Like in this, like the mirror dimension is just like, okay, put everything bad in the mirror dimension, you're fine. There you go. Like it's so.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Alan, do you want to give me your score for Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange. I like many Marvel movies. I feel like I talked a lot of negatives on it, but I still enjoy it enough. I give it a 5.5 out of 10, which if you didn't listen to the first podcast, anything over a 5 means pretty much we recommend it. 5 is like
not necessarily recommend it, but that you liked it.
Yeah, but it is a positive score.
Yeah.
Anything under 5 is negative. Anything over 5 is positive. Anything at 5 is like a middle ground, a gray little area there. But I give it a 5.5. I still view it as positive.
Ryan?
I know I talked a lot of shit. I actually have this higher than Alan. I have this as a 6. I think I put it right up there with Ant-Man in terms of just like it's missing some stuff. But there's still some good things here. So I would still give it a 6.
And I'm going to agree with Alan 100% on this, and I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10. This next movie, I will, spoiler alert, not be agreeing with Alan all that very much. Alan, would you like to give us your initial thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
This is different than both of the people that I'm with, and also different than everyone else. I really don't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I find it boring. I don't particularly like the characters as much as the first movie. I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast last time because I know that I didn't like the movie going into it before. Like the first time I watched it, I didn't like it either, and this time I was hoping that I'd have a little bit of a different reaction, but I don't know. I just don't. I think that there are a lot of good pieces in it, but as a full story, I just find myself getting bored, and I don't want to go too much into more because I'm sure you guys are going to grill me for my thoughts on it, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Ryan, do you want to give your brief thoughts before we like hop into like a full big
Zach,
discussion, or should I go?
You should go first for the contrast.
Okay. I love this movie. Starting out, this was a movie that I did not enjoy the first time I saw it. I have a tweet actually about it today. I tweeted about, but this is a movie that I think that I misunderstood and just plain overlooked. I went into it with a set of expectations, and that my expectations were not originally met, and I didn't apparently care to dive deeper into the film. So watching it the second time, I wanted to give myself sort of an open mind and watch it, and I fell in love. I just find the movie to be incredibly personal. I think all of the characters are written so incredibly well, and it just has a really great thematic weight to it. I don't want to go too deep into it, but Ryan, what are your brief thoughts here, quick, in the beginning?
I think you hit a lot of it, just in general. I think I'll get away from what you said and I'll make a different point, a little more general, but I agree with everything you said. That's all the same feelings I had, because I also, the first time watching it, didn't care for it much. But I'll say, and this is kind of like more of a basic, kind of like almost like a general moviegoer type of reaction, but the movie is hilarious.
It is.
I didn't remember how funny the movie was. I don't know why. I don't remember if the first time I didn't find it funny or if I just forgot that it was funny. But I thought this movie was actually just so funny. It had so much heart. And it's super quotable, just like the first one, unlike how I expected. But it's also super different from the first one in a lot of different ways. I'm sure we'll get into that. And I don't know. Do you guys have any? I kind of want to hear. I really want to hear both of you guys talk, because I love the movie. I really like the movie as well. But Zach, like, really, I think Zach. Well, you'll see by our scores also. Zach, like, really loved the movie. So I kind of want to hear your guys' opinions on both sides.
I really love the movie. Like, I watched it yesterday in our catch up, and I was bawling my eyes out. Like, absolutely. Like, the movie destroyed me emotionally on multiple different occasions. And I was even at work today on my lunch break, like, thinking about this movie, and I was almost tearing up. Like, I've never had such a drastic swing on a second rewatch of a film, and I'm blown away that this could even do this to me. This honestly moved up to be one of my favorite movies. Like, I genuinely love this movie so much. So, Alan, what doesn't work for you? Like, because I'd love to have this discussion, please. I'm so excited right now.
Let me start by saying that I love both of you guys, and I respect you as movie reviewers. So I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you what works for me.
No, I don't take offense to this stuff.
Maybe that's more for the audience who has to like is going to be like, oh, they're going to be. I just, like, for me, like, Ryan mentions the comedy, and I think that there are certainly funny moments. But for me, I think that there are a lot of moments that are repeat jokes that I think don't work. Like, and it's not even just this movie. Like, I think every movie is like now like contractually obligated to just call Rocket Raccoon like another animal, and that's a joke. And it's like, I think that there are a few jokes in there, I can't remember them all, that just get repeated, and I'm like,
I'm gonna agree and disagree with you, because I'd be a bit of a hypocrite because after me talking about Avengers Age of Ultron, where I shit on that movie even though I really kind of like that movie, I don't know why I shit on it so much last episode. I agree. There's a lot of jokes that are like repeated too much. Specifically, a lot of the some of the Taserface stuff.
Yeah,
I actually like Taserface as a character.
I also like Taserface.
But I thought some of the jokes, like the name jokes, kind of went like too many times, where it was like, and it was kind of a repetitive.
It's just kind of
the joke. They didn't
Taserface
add anything to the joke. They just kind of So I would definitely agree that repeating some of the jokes, I definitely disagreed with. Where I will disagree with you, I think the Rocket jokes, works so fucking well in this movie, and I 100% disagree with you on that. If you're going to specifically talk about that, let me explain why.
They thematically fit also, like it
because Rocket's character is super fucking good in this movie, and I think one of the major reasons is because he's the type. He's a character that basically, I mean, this is like not hidden. This isn't, this is pretty on the nose.
This is in the text.
That he's like a complete asshole to everybody. But he's not, like, really an asshole. He's just shielding himself. Mm-hmm. And he's actually super fucking sensitive. More sensitive than any other character. And super insecure. More insecure than any other characters. He dishes out all kinds of shit. He talks about people's personal appearance being fucked up. Taser face. He makes fun of, he has a moment with Yondu in the ship. And Yondu laughs at something he says. And then he has a crude, awful insult about his teeth. And it's not even like it's not supposed to be meant for us to laugh at. It's just him being a fucking douche.
Yeah, no.
And then when people say stuff about him and there's the one scene where I forget which character it was. Somebody calls him a triangle nose.
Kurt Russell's.
Ego calls him a triangle. And they purposely show his reaction that he is like extremely fucking hurt by what he says. And every time people say stuff about him, he's completely hurt by everything everybody says about him. And I think in this movie, more than any of the other movies, it works so well because it's such a character-defining moment for him. And I think that's what this movie is riddled with in a lot of ways. It's these little character-defining segments that, like, very much define the characters and helps the characters grow with the movie.
And I think that there are quite a bit of payoffs by the end of the movie that work. But for me, it's the road that gets there that takes too long, and I end up finding, and I think that that's different maybe in how I view film. I think that sometimes I can get bored easily at things, and I think that I found myself being like, okay, I get it. And by the end of the movie, yes, there is a really good payoff for it, and I think that the direction for Rocket was really good. I just think in terms of handling, I felt like, and that's for a lot of things. I think that Yondu's whole thing by the end of the movie is really cool, and I really grew to like him. But like, I still feel like everything kind of feels like it takes too long to get there, at least for me. I think that I'm just jumping around a little bit, but I think that the final scene, the conflict, the final end thing takes too long.
We're gonna get to that because I don't love a lot of the ending. But we'll get to that.
I don't like some of the ending.
I don't think it looks particularly good, but it also, it's not like it looks terrible. Like there's worse cases, but I think it's like, it's kind of ugly, the whole fight between him and everything, and it lasts like so long. Like, I was looking at my phone because I remembered that it took long. I think it takes 10 minutes for Groot from the time that he gets the bomb to actually detonating it. And that's like that's a fucking long time. I'm not going to
disagree with you on that.
I just think that, like, there's a lot of things where it's like a lot of it feels like, I guess that's pacing. So it just, a lot of it feels to me like the road to get places didn't measure up to the payoff. And I think that there are good things. I think there's a lot of good things. Ryan's talked about that, not on the podcast, but the fucking, it's not, I know I'm just going to contradict myself. Good. The it's not ripe yet thing, which they do repeat multiple times, I think is actually fucking hilarious. Like, and I know that that's kind of contradicted because if they do repeat that joke,
the nipples joke, the payoff on the nipples joke.
See, I don't like the nipples joke.
Oh, I love it. Right in the beginning when he's like, it hurts my nipple, and they put it, I don't know, I just thought it was a funny, it was a funny
delivery
payoff.
I know, and I know, I feel that because like I know that worked for you, and I hate being the like person who's like down on like other people's opinions.
No,
I'm saying like that disagrees with like, but like, oh, it didn't, like, I don't know. I always feel bad about it because I know how good it feels to like something and to share that with people. So I always feel bad when I'm like, oh, I disagree, and I don't like I don't like this thing you liked, because I know how fun it is to like something, to share that.
I'm such an asshole then. I feel like I feel like I shit on your like, you'll say you like something and I won't be afraid to be like, that fucking sucked.
Alan,
I don't know.
I feel kind of bad. I'm just kind of hardened to that stuff, I guess.
I think it's just a difference in how you literally like, you just love talking about movies and like you love giving your opinion. I like doing it too, but I also like to like things, and I like to agree with people.
So, Zach, what were you gonna say?
About like, Alan's talking about how like the journey didn't really grab him. The journey for me is what makes this movie so good. Like, so I love how I feel like every single character beat that they make throughout the movie works for me, especially with our group of heroes here, and even with the villains. So I'm going to talk about it in multiple terms. Like I think what's so good is their themes of parenthood, the themes of abuse, and I also love how I talked to Ryan about this previously right before the podcast, how like ego is literally and figuratively the villain of this movie. So I'll talk about parenthood. So like even starting in the beginning scene of the movie with the opening credits, every single Guardian has a small moment where they parent Groot. And I love how they co-parent him throughout the entire movie, and how that it seemed to be a bit of a struggle, but I also see the certain joys they have in doing that. And how they seem to have a loving relationship with him, despite the later themes in the movie, which are all of their other parents or the relationships to individuals who have been parented this way have been essentially abusive. Quill has had an abusive relationship with Yondu, and it's not shied away from, which I also think is really great. At the end of the movie, I don't think Yondu gets redeemed of every action that he has, but it's a complex emotion, and Yondu is viewed as a complex person. Even his relationship with the Ravagers, I find all of that to be incredibly emotional, and to work on that emotional level. With the stuff with Gamora and Nebula works for me really well, because Thanos is an abusive relationship, but they're in an abusive relationship with Thanos as their father. But I love how, and the first time in the movie that didn't like this, but I love how Nebula has sort of blamed Gamora for not stepping up and taking control of the situation and trying to save her and trying to help her, which also adds incredible subtext to their moment in Infinity War, where Gamora actually saves Nebula for the first time at the hands of Thanos. I think that adds to that really well as well. With Mantis, she sort of views Ego as a father. And I view the way that her and Drax are trying to work through that abuse is through humor. I mean, her and Drax building this relationship, and it's sort of a funny relationship, and that's helping Mantis come out of her shell. Obviously, we can talk about, and it's explored even briefly in the first movie, but how Rocket was abused by his creators, and how he views himself as being abused even by those that love him. And the themes of family and the way that they correspond to parenthood and abuse work really well for me. And
like choosing your family
and accepting them for their faults, and also allowing, like, Peter has a great line where he's like, do you want everyone to hate you because it's working? But he doesn't actually feel that way. He doesn't act that way. Like when he sees Rocket, and when Rocket is eventually back up on the ship, Rocket's like, I don't want to lose another friend today. And that, which just shows Rocket's growth. And when Rocket calls the Ravagers to let them know what Yondu did to save Peter, like that's Rocket realizing that you can accept the love and acceptance from other people, like that's okay. And Rocket starts crying. And the fact of the matter is, in this big giant like Hollywood blockbuster, the fact that we can have this CG raccoon crying and it means so much to me, I just find that to be incredible. But back to like the ego thing, like almost every situation they get into is fueled by someone's ego. The Sovereign are fueled almost entirely by ego. How they view themselves in relation to other humans. How Peter and Rocket end up getting in a flying battle because they're fueled by one of them thinking they're better than the other. How Peter is almost ready to sell out all of his friends, for a little bit, just so he can have that relationship with his dad. That plays back into the parenting thing, but it also, like, he's thinking he's a god, so like that's also fueling the ego there. And then also, I just think that Ego himself, Kurt Russell, is a really great villain, and I think he plays it really well as well.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Not sure how to follow that. Was really good. I liked everything. I agree with everything you said. And it echoes my feelings as well. I can't say I put it all into the same words that you did, which was I thought you did an excellent job. So I guess I can follow it with I really like the line where Peter says I'm going to make some really weird shit.
That's great.
It made me laugh a lot. I don't know what it was. His delivery. Shit. He's fucking good. I'm going to make some really weird shit. I don't know why. I like that line a lot. Just wanted to say that. No, but serious. In all seriousness, though, I 100% agree with everything you said. And I think James Gunn is just a really fucking smart guy, and he has a good way of making his movies. And what I like about this movie also is just how deeply original it is. It feels like the last one, but even more so than the last one. It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie at all. It feels so fucking out of left field, weird as shit, different movie. And I love it. I love how weird it is, the references it makes. I love how deep he makes the characters and their conflicts. Exactly how Zach was saying it. Yeah. I have a couple negatives I want to talk about because I know we've been going on a little bit on this movie, and I'm sure Alan echoes a lot of my thoughts here. Yeah. One of my huge negatives, and this is getting away from more of the themes of the movie. It's more in a almost like literal sense. I think one of the things I have a real problem with this movie is the conflict towards the end in general. So for one, I really wish this movie wasn't a universe-ending movie.
I do agree with you on that. I do.
That really bothered me, and I think one of the worst things about this movie, and it's one of the worst things I like about any Marvel movie, is how they integrated it into the rest of the world. Because there's some good things about it. Like I love like Ego's reveal and how there was multiple women that essentially he tried the same thing with. I don't love the blue blobs. On the planets.
Definitely agree with
that. Shit doesn't work for me at all. I thought that was horrible. I thought it was horrible. I thought it looked horrible, and it like there's no implications. No one brings it up or talks about it. It was just like really weird. I don't even know why they were there. I don't know why they needed that. I guess they needed to make it universe breaking. That might have been a Marvel decision or something. I'm not sure. So that was one thing I was a little disappointed with. And I guess one of the big things is they wanted to like kind of make it like, oh, we're Save the Galaxy. We're 2-time Galaxy Saver. I guess they kind of want to make it, but still I was like, I don't know if they needed the threat to be so imminent. It could have been implied that kind of thing could have been the future.
Like, he was like, oh, we'll take over everything. That would have been enough. We didn't need to show it.
The other thing, maybe it works thematically. I don't love the use your heart for the powers at the end. I understand it, but it's one of those things that always throws me out of movies, and this is something common in Marvel movies and a lot of blockbusters in general, and it's something I kind of talked about with Doctor Strange, is him being able to kind of master his powers so quickly because he used his heart. And I think like Ego, who's been like doing it for millions of years,
would be able to do way better.
Like, and I love how he explains it. Like, Quill can't do anything. He can make a ball. You know, I wish Quill more so used his own strengths to succeed instead of like just out powerhousing him for the most part. Where I like how he uses his wits in the first Guardians, even though it's really silly, the dance off stuff, he uses his strengths that's what helps him win. So I thought in this one, it was a little silly how it ended, and it really put a bad taste in my mouth in comparison to everything else. But overall, I still love the movie.
Yeah. I definitely don't disagree on those points. I just think the other stuff for me, like, so much outweighs all of that. Briefly though, I don't like, I don't know, this like feels so dumb, but I don't like the Pac-Man. I don't like that Pac-Man's there.
Neither do I. That's kind of one of the things I was talking about. That was Pac-Man thing.
That was lame.
That was just like a lame reference.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know, in my opinion.
All right, so
I love the music.
Let's hop into scores here. Alan, what is your score for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
So, I think that this movie has a lot of beautiful, like, brush strokes inside of it, but when I step back and look at the big picture, I'm just not a big fan. So I give it a 4 out of 10.
Ryan?
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I appreciate it more than any other film for being as original and weird and different and kind of embracing that more so than any movie has on this list. To the same extent that I really wish Doctor Strange would. I have a lot of like flaws with it that I think hold it back, but I still think it's overall one of my favorite movies. I give it a 7.5.
Excellent. And I this movie has taken a hold of me in a way that I didn't expect. It really moves me, and I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. It's really, really great. So
also, how fucking great was that scene at the end when Peter realizes everything, and he looks back at the memories of his mother, and the rest of the Guardians.
So good.
All right, on to the next one.
I love you too.
Alrighty. Moving on. This is a movie that I know Alan really loves. So let's kick it to him. Alan, Spider-Man: Homecoming. What are your Actually, you know what? No. Fuck you. I know you love it, but I'm gonna go to Ryan because he's a basic bitch for Spider-Man. Ryan, what are your brief thoughts for Spider-Man: Homecoming?
So I'm like, as I've said, I'm a huge Spider-Man fanboy. I've read more Spider-Man comics than any other character, that and Batman. So even though like I'm a big fanboy, I still can be pretty critical of the movies. Like if it has a character I love in it, I'm a lot of times more critical of it. Like I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I have. I've talked about my distaste for Batman and DCU right currently. Mm-hmm. So going into this movie, it's a lot on it. Like he had a really great introduction in Civil War, but now that it's back in the hands of Sony when they're making it, even though like obviously Kevin Feige was very much involved in making this, and like Marvel had their say and a lot of things was done in this movie, but ultimately it's still an Amy Pascal, Sony Spider-Man movie. So there's a lot of worry, especially coming off of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movies. I almost said trilogy, but there's no third movie. So I was very worried going into it. And the first time I watched it, I like really, really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was excellent. I thought they did a good job, like kind of mimicking the Marvel style. And I thought it was very funny. And I thought they handled the high school stuff, which is my favorite version of Spider-Man and Spider-Man when he's in high school. So I was very pleased with that. And I thought that was great. But I still was like, after first watching it, I still was like, oh, you know, it still feels like very flawed. Well, not flawed, but just kind of meh in a little bit. Still one of my, like, I was still like top third. I was still feeling about it, but I still like, so I hadn't actually rewatched it as much as you would expect considering I'm such a big Spider-Man fan. But after rewatching it, I feel like a moron that I overlooked this movie so much. Not to the same extent where I overlooked Guardians 2 and how Zach has overlooked, you know, how we both felt we overlooked Guardians 2. But this movie is like legitimately just a great movie, like on its own even. I think it's just like way better than I was giving it any credit for. I'll get into it more because we're going to talk for a while, and I know if I'll ramble, so I'm gonna let you guys. Alan, since you were originally asked first, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I think it's great. I think I really liked it when I first saw it too, but I have a habit of getting a little bit too hyped for things when I first see them. Like for instance, when we did our like Smash Bros podcast, I was like, I think this might be one of my favorite games of all time, and it's like, it's all right. Like, so I think when I got out of this, I was like, I thought that if I watched it again today, I might not like it as much, but no, it's fantastic. I think that this is low key one of the, that was not a pun, one of the best villains that they have done. Oh, yeah. I think that I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff. I think that the relationship between Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland, or Peter Parker and Tony Stark, is just, it's handled so freaking well.
And they don't overuse him.
Yeah.
Like we were all afraid they were going to.
Yeah, I thought, well, they put him like 3 times on the poster, so everyone thought it was like, I think it was twice on the poster, but like everyone thought it was like, oh god, this is going to be Iron Man 4 featuring Spider-Man. And it's not. It's so good, and the lessons that he learns throughout the movie, it's just everything you'd want from a Spider-Man movie. I think that Spider-Man, Peter Parker together, probably one of the best Peter Parker Spider-Man, because I've always thought that I think that Tobey Maguire is a really good Peter Parker, and Andrew Garfield is a really good Spider-Man. I think that Tom Holland probably is the best of both when he covers being both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I think he captures that really well. Also, he kind of looks like he actually fits the age group that he's in, so that helps. So yeah, that was my brief thoughts.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can't say that I have much to add other than I love how low stakes this movie is. And we were just talking about how none of us really enjoyed how the Guardians of the Galaxy ending sort of needed to be galaxy or universe ending. This one is so not. It's so low stakes. And it's so ooey gooey. Alan was talking about last time how I can't remember the actor's name, but how he's delicious. How low stakes this movie is just yum 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 delicious.
Arnim Zola.
Toby Jones as
Arnim
delicious.
Zola.
This is just delectable. I'm all about this. And Michael Keaton as Vulture easily moved himself up. I mean, I'd have to actually sit down and do the math, but I think he's like a top 3 Marvel villain for me. So Ryan.
Probably not, just because I would have Thanos and Eric Killmonger and Loki probably ahead of him. But
I'd have to sit down. Thanos is probably you
didn't do it all.
But okay, so I think one of the things that I think works well for this movie, and I guess that's a great place to start for us to talk about the Vulture, Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes. I think what's so excellent about his character, just in general, is that he is a complete foil to Peter Parker. That I think it's so Alan mentioned this, and it's something I had thought of, but I was like, oh, this is a really great point to even mention on the podcast, so I'm not trying to steal your point.
No.
But I am going to credit the source.
Thank you.
But how, I mean, I guess this isn't like super hidden or anything, but it's a great point to say that how Adrian Toomes' Vulture, his whole goal is to stay low to the ground and to stay under the radar as possible, because he's not trying to be a big shot villain. He's not doing it for his ego or for anything other than supporting his family, to take back from the people that have taken from him. He's almost has the he has a mindset of just trying to almost I don't really know how to word this, but I would say like a selfish Robin Hood. But he feels like this is the way the world is supposed to work, and this is how
takes the world as it is.
This is the only way you can survive when the big cats are getting away with everything. That's kind of his whole, his mindset. And I love that Peter is the complete opposite of Toomes in that he wants so badly to be recognized and known. He doesn't want to be a small time, just going after a small time criminals. He wants to go after he wants to go after Avengers style villains. He wants to fight aliens. But he's neglecting how important doing his job is. And it's kind of the own personal growth he goes through as the movie goes along, and how important it is to look out for the little guy, as you said in Civil War. I think I actually want to get into something else. It's related to the characters. I don't know if you guys are willing, or if you guys have anything you want to add about what I said. No, it's fine.
Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes.
I'm still talking about him, but
okay. Well, I just want to say, no one can do menacing like Michael Keaton, and that's our scene.
That's where I was going.
Oh, okay.
Holy shit!
Okay. So the movie does an excellent job of building up these two characters as it goes along. Just when you think, and a lot of times when you feel like Michael Keaton and the character of Adrian Toomes is going to become that kind of mustache twirly villain, he doesn't. And I think one of the best scenes just in general is obviously this starting off with Peter going to visit. And it fits in with his character so perfectly too, because he's given up after Tony Stark taking away the suit. He's setting the scene here a little bit. He's given up being Spider-Man. He's okay with living his life. He's accepted what he has been refusing and the consequences of being Spider-Man, which is what the whole fucking character is about. And this movie gets it, and I'm in love with that. Is the consequences of being Spider-Man, what it does to his personal life and the people around him. If the consequence of him just straight up being Spider-Man, he's willing to accept it, that he's just not going to do it because of Tony, and he's given up on himself, and he said, I'm just going to be a teenager. And it's kind of, he's at that not low point, because he's enjoying being he's at this point where he's going to enjoy being a teenager. He's going to go to the homecoming with his biggest crush. And then when he pops in and sees fucking to the audience, we had no idea. We see fucking Adrian Toomes, Michael Keaton, answer the door, and it's the most tense fucking scene in the Marvel Cinematic Universe history. It is so, like, edge of your seat, back curled up, like, tense scene. Starting off when him meeting him, because we are watching it completely through Peter's eyes. Mm-hmm. We know what Peter knows. We know from his perspective. And it's really cool, the suspense of Adrian Toomes not knowing, and the conversation between, well, Peter trying to basically stay as under the radar and quiet as possible in this conversation, and Liz kind of giving him away. And that realization during the conversation of moments and little hints, and then and giving him a realistic reason to find out why it's Spider-Man. Why, and the convenience is working out way too well. So it makes sense that he realizes he's Spider-Man. And then when he realizes it and the fucking light turns green on his face. Oh, God, it gives me goosebumps rewatching that scene. I remember I liked it originally, it's so much fucking better. Because one of my biggest complaints I say about... I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent.
It's okay, it's Spider-Man. Yeah. We've come to expect it.
One of my biggest problems with Marvel movies and movies in general, one of my biggest pet peeves is conveniences in movies. Like when things are almost too good to be true conveniences. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, these people are related, or like randomly, these people from across the earth are related somehow, and just for the convenience of the plot. This movie has that, with just so happening to have Peter going after, like, having a crush on and going to the prom with the main villain of the movie. But it's executed so... What did I say?
You said that he's going to prom with the main villain.
Oh, yeah. I would see that movie. He didn't realize it the whole time. No, sorry. But it's executed so well in that scene, and it ties into the kind of bad luck of Peter in general so fucking well that it just so works. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. So that was the whole thing. I went on a long tangent. I apologize.
No, I loved it.
Oh, no.
I loved it.
I always love hearing you talk about Spider-Man.
Just so much works in this movie for me. I just really, and then of course I got my fucking one of my favorite moments from the comics, from Amazing Spider-Man 33, when Peter has to, the moment when he's trapped under and no one's coming to save him. He doesn't have Tony to save him. He doesn't have anybody to save him. He's pleading for help. And he does it himself, looking after. It's the most Spider-Man shit of all time.
Yeah,
like
it's amazing.
I feel sad because I was gonna do like a thing.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna go. Oh, hey, want to hear Ryan go on a tangent here? And I was gonna say, come on, Spider-Man. And I knew if I said that, you were like, oh my God, I have to talk about this.
Spider-Man. Tom Holland is a fucking treasure.
Oh my God, and that scene is incredible.
Oh my God,
and here's this also hot take. I don't think it's as hot as a take. Because it's fucking true. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
No, yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying at the beginning. But I was like, fact. The thing was, I tiptoed around it, and you said
it. Fucking fact.
Here's another hot take, and you will disagree with this, Zach. Spider-Man Homecoming is the best live-action Spider-Man movie.
I don't disagree.
Spider-Man 2 was always it for me. Even after watching this the first time, watching this time, this movie gets Spider-Man more than I gave credit for.
Ryan, you know how I like to list things. I have a list of Spider-Man live-action movies. This is top. This is the number one.
I haven't rewatched the Raimi trilogy in a while, so I'd have to go back.
I apologize. I feel like I talked mostly about this movie. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
I have nothing. I think
there's more.
You said everything.
I'm so happy with everything you said to leave it at that.
It's really funny, too. The movie's hilarious.
It's so fucking funny.
The movie fucking gets high school announcement videos.
Yes.
If you grew up from like 2008 to now, then you know those like low quality. I know because we worked on them.
Yeah,
they're shit. They're horrible, but that's what makes them so fucking great. And the movie gets it.
We didn't talk about.
Oh my God, it just gets the fucking classes in general.
Fucking. I would hate to lose another student again. Or lose a student. Not again. The movie's just fucking hilarious.
We didn't talk about him, but I love Ned, and I love.
I was watching
Yes.
Porn.
I love his little spin. He's like, guy in the
our
chair,
notes?
and he like fucking spins around.
He's just a great character.
Yeah.
He was really right for this movie.
Gosh, I don't remember the actor's name, and I feel bad.
And also just the straight
Jacob
up like
Batalon.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
the straight up like John Hughes like references all throughout. I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
one that's a little on the nose. I wish they didn't like when he's doing the Ferris Bueller run through the yards scene.
Yeah.
I wish they didn't show it on the screen because it's like we know you didn't have to be so.
The comedic timing worked.
Leave it for the people
show,
that
but
know. No, yeah, it worked for but
I do.
I don't
agree
know. The high
with
school
you.
stuff is just handled so well. It's a high school. I know this is a cliche, but and I never believed it before. But it really is like a high school movie first,
Oh yeah.
and a superhero movie second. And that's why this movie is so much more unique than I gave credit for initially, and why I think it's just so fucking good.
One little line I absolutely love, and every time I hear it, I just think it's the funniest thing is when Ned's like, "Do you lay eggs?"
Oh yeah, that whole scene is funny when he asks all the questions, and I just oh god, it's so good.
Peter knows Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I also just love how last thing I know I said last thing earlier, but I also love just the fact that the high schoolers act like high schoolers.
Oh my gosh, the bullying is like
the
actually,
bullying's
like,
real bullying. It's like
What's
how
up,
bullying
penis
actually
Like,
is.
oh, I'll make you eat something.
Yeah, like it's like not even like and like when like the jokes that he makes like are more realistic, like insults that people would really get. Like people in high school, like more of the quiet types, not even necessarily like Peter's not really because they're all nerds. They all go to a science high school,
Yep.
but he's like more. He's just quiet and reserved and awkward, and that's what Peter is.
Mm-hmm.
And they do an excellent job of just like even the jokes like when he's like, oh yeah, like when Flash is like, oh yeah, I have a date with Black Widow, like and like, stuff like that. It's like small jabs and teases,
Yeah.
but like it makes him feel insecure and awkward,
and
it
like,
makes him feel defensive, and it hurt me. It was like that's kind of like that's like that high school bullying. I don't
yeah,
like that.
and it's like it's real because it's like you could realistically see Flash go home later and be like, I'm not a bully, like I made jokes, but like it doesn't feel like over the top. Like I'm gonna like give a person a swirly or a wedgie.
The only time I think they overstep it a little bit is when he like turns to Peter and says he's dead for answering a question.
Oh,
that was the only one where I was like, you didn't need that one.
Yeah.
That one. Why would he say that?
Can we didn't talk about this, and this is really the last thing we have to move on. But Peter's relationship with Aunt May, I love it. I love Marissa Tomei as Aunt May also. It's a different Aunt May than we've seen in movies.
She just keeps getting younger.
But but I really love their relationship. It's just like even like the little shit like where she's like trying to teach him where they're trying to learn how to tie a tie and stuff like that. Like it's just like the little stuff I really enjoy. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Oh my gosh, it's just like that like motherly. I know it's not his mother, but like that sort of like, and you can see because she's also has to come at it from his
and how protective he is of her.
She does it so well with so little screen time. I'm excited to see where they go in the future with her.
When she's like upset with him when he wouldn't answer the calls, how worried she was.
Because we know.
And then he fucking like breaks down because he lost everything about Spider-Man, which is all he's ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And she comforts him through it.
Yeah.
That's Aunt May for you. That's fucking Aunt May.
But like her
delectable.
thing too. It's like we know why she's so worried. It's this movie's so fucking good. Let's go to scores.
Yeah. Alan, what is your score for Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I fucking love this movie. It's an 8.5 out of 10.
Ryan?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 as well. I love it.
I'm also gonna give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Great fucking movie. All right, so moving on. Our next movie is Thor: Ragnarok, directed by Taika Waititi. Alan, do you want to give us your brief thoughts on Thor: Ragnarok, not Tor Ragnarok, like I was about to say?
I feel bad because I'm going to go first, but I want to like get real excited and geek out about one thing because Ryan got to about Spider-Man. They finally fucking understand the Hulk. Like this is the movie that probably understands the Hulk better than, and it's in a lot of ways jokey, but like to me, this movie understands the Hulk better than really it's ever been on film. They really understand the difference between Banner and Hulk, the fact that they're different people, the fact that they don't like each other, at least, Hulk doesn't like Banner. And that there's just, to me, like, this is the first movie to kind of be like, oh, they're not the same. Like, he can kind of try to aim him, which even says, like, in the past, I always kind of felt like I had like one hand on the wheel. So I love that. Okay, but this movie is called Thor Ragnarok, so I do want to get to that part. This was a really good course correction for the Thor character. Not that, the thing was that the other two Thor movies weren't really utilizing Chris Hemsworth or the character very well. And I like that Taika Waititi decided to strip everything away from Thor before Infinity War and really get to who this character is. So I think that this movie is really, really good, really fun, and Taika Waititi is a great director. And I was really excited about watching this again.
Ryan, brief thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, I think when I first saw this movie, this is kind of a recurring thing, I guess, with a bunch of these movies, but I guess the first time I saw it, it's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't, like, love it. I'm not sure, like, that my score is changing at all or anything, but I definitely appreciate it a lot more, and I actually had a lot more fun. I think I allowed myself to have fun with it more than I did the first time, because I think I had different expectations going into it. But I agree with everything you said. I think one of the major things I really loved about this movie is I think they did an amazing job with the character of Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And as Alan was saying, just like understanding the differences. I've always liked Hulk, mostly because Alan's always been a big fan. Like when we were growing up, I always loved Spider-Man. Alan always loved Hulk. Alan actually loved Venom before the Hulk, but then like that's old. I don't know. Maybe tell that story another time.
I thought about it if we got to weekly retrospective, but we're not going to.
Either way, I think one of my favorite things is they finally, I think, got the Hulk right. I'm just repeating what Alan says. I'm not going to get into more than that because I echo all of his thoughts. But that was like the thing I think I loved most about this movie. One funny thing about me is I never really felt much for Thor. I didn't care for him much. But when we went to see, I remember when this is a weird story, but before we watched Avengers Age of Ultron, I always Cap was always my favorite to that point, also because Spider-Man just wasn't a thing in these movies. So I was really liked Cap, and we were all like picking shirts because we all wanted to wear a different character's shirt before we went to see the movie. And Zach, I always loved Captain America. So I was like, okay, well, let Zach have it. I'll let Zach have it because he definitely has more feelings towards the character than I do. So I was like, I guess I'll settle for Thor. I think one of you guys suggested I get a Thor shirt, or I don't remember. I don't even remember the total story behind it necessarily.
We just all wanted shirts, but I don't remember why you ended up.
But I got the Thor shirt, and I ended up reading comics for about Thor afterwards because I was gonna just fully embrace it. And I love the character.
The Thor shirt was the only shirt we could find on Amazon that would deliver in time. That was another Avenger.
That was in the movie. Yeah. So I got on board with the character. That's not related to this movie at all. That's just a personal story. I just thought was kind of neat.
Well,
but it'll kind of go on to, I guess, a lot what Alan said as well is I think, and I've complained about the other movies. I complained about the other Thor movies that I think Chris Hemsworth wasn't very good, and I didn't think the character of Thor was very good in the movies. And I think they finally got it right. And Taika Waititi, I think, was finally got a director that knew how to work with Chris Hemsworth and utilize his strengths, not so much that not only utilize his strength to make him kind of work, but to make him be excellent in the role.
Right.
They finally got him right. Because they it's not just as simple as he's making him comedic and making him it's about making him self-aware, which other movies have touched on, but didn't touch on it right. They made it a little too goofy, and they didn't use him right. In these movies, it's he's got this self-awareness, but it's almost cradled in his the burden he has for his entire race and his insecurities about himself without Mjolnir, or I'm sorry, Meow Meow.
Meow. I was gonna say.
And I think adding these parameters and, as Alan said, stripping him down to the core character right off the bat, I think really did a great job defining him. And now I fucking hope, I don't know. I haven't seen Endgame yet. if you're watching this and you think I'll have watched it, because I'm watching it tonight. I just want to make sure I flex that against I haven't. And literally in 2.5 hours or something like that.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to his character going forward after this. So, Zach, what are your thoughts?
I honestly don't have very much to add for Thor Ragnarok other than we haven't really touched upon this, but I think that Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master is
I want to talk about him next.
funny.
So
he needs
funny.
to be in every Taika Waititi film.
Right? He just
Like,
works
he's
so well with his sense of humor. And
I want to just throw out some of his lines that are incredible.
Please, yeah, go
he has
ahead.
some of the best lines. Oh, I don't want to take away from your whole.
No,
thing.
it's fine.
I love the scene where he's with Valkyrie and his the woman there where he's like
she's also in all
she's
the
the
movies,
I know I can't remember her name where he's like she's the and it starts with a B and then the woman goes trash and he's like what no he's like that were you just waiting to say that doesn't even start with a B. No, best. I always say you're the best. I also love
the movie's a lot of improv too, which is amazing.
Love a subtle thing where he's like, on any other planet I would be like thousands of years old, but here
he just smiles.
That's the most like, Jeff Goldblum shit ever.
He's
so good.
He's like such an awkward pun.
Oh, that's so good.
The fact that he calls out the fact that he's like, oh, I'm the god of thunder, and he's like, I didn't hear any thunder, but it's like, he said, Lord of Sparkles or
Lord of Thunder. He keeps calling him
Ooh.
that. I also love, and it's so subtle, but I literally I busted out laughing so loud in the theater and at home every time I see it. The fact that they play Pure Imagination when he's on that seat, and it's so good. You're playing Pure Imagination in the background. You're gonna meet the Grand Master now.
He's screaming. you just broke the levels there, Zach.
It's fucking so good. I love it. Oh man,
I love when he's talking to Valkyrie and Loki. He has not even that much time in the movie, but everything he does is great. Where he's talking to Valkyrie and Loki, and he's like, "Well, don't interrupt me." And the lady goes to hand him the melting, so he's like, "No, she interrupted me. That's not. That's not a melt stick. Not that much.
It's not a crime worthy of the melt stick."
Oh man.
I mean, I like that we're kind of taking a step back with this one, and we're not trying to get into the super deep stuff, and we're just kind of reminiscing about it because I think that's the best way to talk about it. I think they did a lot for the characters, but I think overall, and I can't believe I'm saying this because it's really a cliche, the movie is really fun and it's very funny, and it was just a joy to watch in itself. I love the Doctor Strange scenes. Yep. Taika Waititi has a really good way of using physical humor.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
So he makes funny things out of things that shouldn't be funny. Like the scene where he's teleporting them from room to room, and every time he's spilling the beer a little bit and hitting something. It's such a minor thing, but it's such a Taika Waititi type of joke.
Falls on the
I
bookshelf.
die laughing. And he's spilling a little bit of beer, so he's it's so goofy, but it's so funny for no reason. The way Scourge fucking walks up and my stuff. I don't know why. Why is that funny to me?
I got
it's so Taika Waititi. In Tex. I call it. What does I call it? Destroy and put together.
Destroy.
Piss off, Ghost.
Korg, dude.
Korg. It's kind of a freaky
drink
circle.
when you said that. I almost spit it all over the mic.
I was gonna start a revolution, but I didn't print enough pamphlets.
You see, the only people that came were my mom and her boyfriend, who I hate. Korg is.
We need more Korg in the MCU. Please bring him back.
I feel like he's going to be in
he's
Infinity
dead.
War.
Or
Endgame.
I love
Meek. He's dead. I
got
stepped on him a while back.
What was your question again?
I love when he's like, are those eggs or is it an ectoplasm?
Yeah.
I think they're eggs.
Oh yeah, made of rocks. Don't let that intimidate you though.
unless you're made of scissors. Unless you're made of scissor joke.
The movie is so quotable.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's the kind of movie that when you remember quotes, you say it and then you laugh. Kind of like we're doing, because it's just really goofy, dumb shit. But that's what Taika Waititi is all about. These weird I don't know. He's got a really weird sense of humor, and it really works on me. Anyway,
one Grandmaster quote I really love. Sorry, it's when she's the arena's mainframe is acting up, and the slaves have armed themselves, and he's
yes.
Don't say that word. It's what, mainframe? No, that's
no. Why would I have an issue with me? No, why would I have an issue with mainframe?
Sorry, the prisoners with
no,
jobs.
the S word. That's better. That's better.
I think the last thing we do have to mention, we can reminisce and joke about it, and the movie's really funny. Check out the movie. I think we do have to mention really quick Hela and kind of the twist at the end about Ragnarok, how they kind of trigger it, and the whole point of it being about the people. Mm-hmm. I thought that stuff was handled better this time around than I thought the first time. The first time I watched it, I was like, she's kind of evil for the sake of being evil. And it's kind of the case. She's a little justified, but she's definitely on the weaker end spectrum of villains. She's like mid-tier villain, lower mid-tier, in my opinion.
So I actually like her because I think that like a Maleficent character, where it's before the shitty remake, where it's like, yeah, she's evil for being evil, but like I kind of just dig it. Because it's like they don't even
because Cate Blanchett is fucking awesome.
She's just good. She can be great in everything, and her performance is really great. And I think I just buy it a lot, and they don't even really try to justify it. She just kind of like she's all about conquest and that kind of, you know. I don't know. For some reason,
what she's doing is right for Asgard, but like she's just so ignorant to how it's like wrong. Mm-hmm. Wrong,
and they're not like the particles are making her evil. So
yeah. Like she feels slighted, and she feels like her father was a coward and didn't finish what they had started and what she believes in. And it's part of Norse mythology. I think this is I think it's probably. Oh, and also Immigrant Song. That fight sequence is fucking sick.
Both times they use
Immigrant Song is actually about Norse mythology. That's what the song is about.
It's perfect.
So I think it fits really well, and the action sequence is just fucking cool. And the action in general, like I complained about the action in Winter Soldier, and I stand by that. I think this movie does action so much better for like a lot of the opposite reasons. Like some of the fight choreography isn't like the greatest I've ever seen, but the camera work in action with the action is super good. Even like Hela's fight scene where she's fighting all those people, like those people, I don't remember which realm or she's in or wherever she's at. I guess it is just an Asgard. I don't remember. But she fights like that whole warrior people. It's just satisfying to watch because of how smooth the camera work is.
We do have to
they handle that stuff so well.
We do have to mention this. It's honestly the fact that we didn't mention it yet is a little depressing. It's the most important thing we should have mentioned. The Warriors 3 are gone and dead.
Yeah.
What a tragedy.
So
what a Norse tragedy.
R.I.P. to them.
Man.
Yeah.
We don't even get to think whether or not they get
I like that
out.
most of them are just like quickly like destroyed. Like
that's just Fandral them just throwing away the other movies.
Yeah. Like Fandrel's just like and it's weird because it's like I know that like Zachary Levi's got like his whole Shazam thing where he's like major actor now. And it's weird to just see him just get quickly like, hi, puts like knife through the heart, he's dead. Like
yeah. And no one cares. No one mourns him.
No.
Loki was great in this movie. I don't think we have enough time to go into it, but he was great. We all agree.
We all agree Loki was great.
Yeah.
Thor's little line about snakes is amazing.
Yep. Oh my gosh. This movie's so fucking funny.
Ratings?
Let's go to ratings.
I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok a 7.5 out of 10. Ryan?
I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok a 6. I'm sorry. I'm going to give it a 7.5 as well.
Alan?
I will give Thor Ragnarok a 7.5 as well. I'm not going to fake you out like Ryan.
Damn, he really about to beat at. All right, moving on. We're moving on to now Black Panther.
A movie we all hate.
We all hate it. Listen to our Oscar podcast.
Because it was nominated.
We don't all hate the movie. Alan.
No, it's a good movie.
I think we're going to set a thing here. I think that we've talked enough about negatives for this film in different things. I think I'd like to just talk about the positives because I still think it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Despite I think that it got too much press for Oscar season. That's the only negative I want to say. I think that I just want to do positives for this.
Visual effects aren't good.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things I could say are bad, but I'm not going to talk about bad.
I want to, because we haven't had the chance to talk about this as good. And to me, I think that this movie is just, it's just really, I think it's really good. I think Michael B. Jordan, honestly, like after watching this again, he like, I'm not saying he is the best villain in the MCU, but I think he very well could be. He's definitely top 3. I would probably even say top 2.
I'd put him at number 2, probably.
And I think that you could even make a case for number 1, and I would be like, I can totally see why.
Fair.
He's fantastic. The fact that his final line is probably
it's actually the hardest shit.
To be honest, it's the best. To be honest, in my opinion, it's the best line in MCU in the MCU.
One of the best, absolutely.
Because the fact that that's even in the MCU,
at least up there, at least one of the best.
That fucking like
impactful.
Bury me in the ocean
with my ancestors who jump from the ship.
That bondage was, or that death.
They knew that death was better than
I'm
bondage.
fucking it up. Yeah, I'm fucking it up.
And then he pulls the. Yeah. Oh man, that Killmonger in general is just a fucking amazing.
The whole
character.
quote. The whole quote. Out.
In my opinion, best character in the whole movie, and I think that's easy to say.
The whole quote out is why? So you can lock me up? Nah, just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from ships because they knew death was better than bondage, and that is just fucking amazing.
His character, goosebumps. I love that he is not. He is a villain that is forged.
Yes.
He has a moment. He has the moment, obviously, that starts him on his path when he sees his father is killed, and the way he sees his father is killed by the people that have rejected him in Wakanda, and they've abandoned him in a place that subjugates against him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get the same opportunities as other people because of the color of his skin, where he could have gone to some place where that's not the case at all. But his father, they killed his father and left him behind. And he's grown spiteful and hateful for it, of course. And you almost can't blame him. You know, in the circumstances he was in, he was growing up in Oakland in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I couldn't think of one of the more dangerous place to live in the United States at that time. And he used everything to that point moving forward to become the kind of aggressive and motivated people he can be. And I think they do an excellent job of like building up to his character as well. The movie almost lets on like Claw's going to be the main villain, even unless like you know, going into the movie you might know that like who Killmonger is and he would be the main villain. But they do an excellent job. I also think Claw is great.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like he's so.
I was sad to see him go, but I liked how they did it.
They did it in such a fucking good way too.
Yeah, and it really just built up Killmonger even more. Yeah. Oh my gosh, how great is the scene in the throne room when? Sorry, I know I'm hijacking your thing.
No, it's okay.
But when they're like, where everyone's like, he's like, I want the throne, and they're all like almost laughing at him, and he's like, tell him or ask me who I am or something like that. And then when he does, and the music, and it's my god,
the music is the soundtrack.
Oh my god,
amazing. I didn't even get. This is like the soundtrack of this movie is like. I don't think I realized it the first time I watched. I think I kind of did. I was like, "Oh, the soundtrack's pretty good." And then listening to it, like I had my headphones on, like my nice headphones on when I was watching it in bed, and like I was listening, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!"
It's amazing.
This is some of the most creative like music in any Marvel movie, and it tonally fits so well, and the themes of the characters are so good. Oh my god! The music is so good.
I own the soundtrack on vinyl. And like it's just fucking amazing. Like I can't just describe how much I absolutely love this music. But one real thing, you had mentioned this, and I saw this on Twitter. Somebody who's a lot smarter than I am had pointed this out, and I thought I would have pointed it out, even given my Civil War connection to Black Panther earlier. But the way that Killmonger holds his dad after his dad's death in this movie is almost exactly the same as how T'Challa holds T'Chaka in Civil War, and like that's some great storytelling there as well. Like
because they're also these characters are also foils of one another. They share very different ideals, and they both have different flaws in their leadership. In that T'Challa is he's a bit of a coward to act, if that makes any sense. To kind of do like until he discovers especially what his father did, when he has the realization and he it makes actual decisions on his own, where Killmonger, and I can't remember his actual character name,
Eric Stevens, or I don't know how to pronounce Njadika. I forget how it was pronounced. I'm seeing it in the notes, but I don't know.
Whatever. But
it's Eric Stevens is what he
and then but his character is completely acting on impulse, almost not thinking and just acting, and that makes them totally different in what they are. And I think it makes their confrontation towards the end really impactful. One of the things I also really love about this movie, just in general, I love the politics and I love the culture. that they build in the movie, and the costume design. Like we were shitting on the movie before, but really the costume design and set design really is
the Oscars they won are, I think, totally deserved.
Yeah. I still
won for writing, and I don't think that you were.
It won for music too, right?
It did not win for writing. It won for
score. I thought it won for
writing.
It went for original score,
which actually I would say maybe not that.
It's funny. It's funny. I personally still would say that I don't want to get into this. I still would say that
Beale Street could talk.
Beale Street, I think, still should have won because I think that score is like out of this world. One of my favorites in a long time. But this one is I don't feel as bad about it after rewatching it this time.
But yeah,
I just want to.
Go ahead, Alan.
I just wanted to like quickly go through some of these characters and what I felt about all of them. Nakia, I really liked her. Lupita Nyong'o's a fantastic actress.
I love Lupita Nyong'o.
So I was. I thought she was great. As well. Denai, I can never pronounce her last name, but as Okoye, I thought she was also really good, and
I liked her character a lot.
I thought she stood out.
I like her going forward
really
too.
Well. Everett Ross, Martin Freeman is Everett Ross. I think he's okay. I actually don't. I think he's probably one of the weaker points.
I really didn't like him the first time I watched it because I thought he felt useless. He still is kind of useless, but
he's comic book. But like, I
think he's also supposed to kind of be the character that
gets to be wowed by all of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like us as an audience where we're being wowed by everything, right. Even though everything's introduced before he appears. But I don't know. To an extent, I still think his character's a little kind of felt like he was there because he had to be there because he was supposed to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He kind of feels like he's just kind of there for no reason a lot of the time.
Daniel Kaluuya, I'm really bad at pronouncing his name too, as W'Kabi. I really bought his stuff and his relationship with.
He should have never trusted him.
Yeah,
this guy was basically like fucking Killmonger light. He was diet Killmonger.
But I really liked how they did that and how they did the relationship and the friendship between them. So I thought he was good. Zach, your thoughts on W'Kabi?
No, I like W'Kabi. I enjoyed like his relationship with Okoye. And how that brought like attention to things. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that was really cool, and seeing the dynamic between those two a lot as well. Letitia Wright as Shuri. I like her. I don't love her as much as she's like a huge fan favorite.
Like
I don't
Shuri.
think that she's
I just
there
don't
for
like
me.
her.
I
jokes
like
written
her.
For her.
Yeah, I think that. I think I still really like her. She's a huge fan favorite. So I don't know that I'm at that level, but I still really like. I
love her relationship with T'Challa. But I don't like. I think in a big part of it, we didn't want to get into flaws, but like kind of how the technology's kind of magic.
Yeah. Well, she is the smartest person in the MCU. Confirmed.
That is confirmed.
Yeah. They've said like she is. So I guess I said this to you earlier. I was like, I guess, for the fact that the stuff is basically magic, I think that it's tough because you've got like Stark out there creating like things, and you needed to make Wakanda better than even that because they needed to make Wakanda like if Wakanda just had like basically the same tech as Stark, it'd be like, what are they really sharing? So I can see why they did it, but yeah, I mean the magic, the bracelets are like, oh, so it's kind of just got a function for everything, huh? Like, and it's like, but there's like almost no interface to it whatsoever. So
yeah, just push the button.
So yeah, but either way, I still like her character. Winston Duke, I love M'Baku.
Same.
I think he's. I do
love M'Baku.
I don't know why.
He also had the best joke in the movie.
Which was
feeding. That he was going to feed him. If you speak again, I'll feed you to my children. I'm just kidding. We're vegetarians.
Yeah. I loved M'Baku. I loved his character. I loved the like somewhat like like the respect that he still had for T'Challa. Because they could have just made him like bad. His character in the comics is man ape. It was a really good decision to not follow through with that part. Which they decided to not do.
Still
because
part of
their
like the
they said they decided to do that was their kind of symbol, but like they were like they felt like this would be a really poor decision with racial culture and stuff like that, and I think that was the right decision, but to still give ties to that, I think was done really well to still to his character. and still like, you know, show like, oh, that's kind of their tribal, because they're the
Jabari.
Oh gosh, they're not the border. Yeah, they're just Jabari. I forgot because there was the border tribe, and all of them had like names that like fit, but they're just Jabari. Yeah.
And
but yeah, Forrest. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to completely pass on yours. Angela Bassett as Ramonda, I thought she was great, and really just kind of when Black Panther quote unquote died, I thought that she handled that really well. There's not a ton to say there. And Zuri, Forrest Whitaker's character, I thought was really well handled as well. Just kind of really fills that uncle role really fucking well, and I think that it was handled really well. So I just wanted to like quickly go through because I loved pretty much every actor in this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the cast. So
yeah, I think we're ready for scores. What do you guys think?
I'm good with scores.
I totally agree. Ryan, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I know we talked a lot of positives about the movie. I give it a 7 out of 10, which is really good. If you hear a lot of my other reviews, it's higher than a lot of the ones, I think, even a lot of the ones we talked about today even. Really loved the movie. I thought it was really good. It's in my top 10. That's a spoiler alert. So I definitely say it's a top 10 Marvel movie. Well worth watching. I enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Alan, what's your score for Black Panther?
Yeah, just a little bit higher than Ryan, echoing most of his thoughts on things too, though. It's 7.5 out of 10. I think there are flaws with the film, but the poetry of the movie allows me to just overlook a lot of them. 7.5 out of 10 is a really good score. I don't actually know where it fits in my group, but we'll get there.
Fantastic. And I am going to be giving Black Panther a 7 out of 10. It's a really good movie for me. It's one of the Marvel movies I actually own. It's one that I could definitely rewatch, and it's a story that I think is really important. All right, moving on.
Next one's big.
The next one is huge. Here we have Avengers Infinity War. This is a big one, boys. So why don't we hop into it? Ryan.
Yes.
I would like you to start first and give your opinion on Avengers Infinity War.
General thoughts is very difficult with this movie.
Yes.
Because it's so fucking huge. But I guess I can try speaking as generally as I can.
Should we just hop into our full thoughts? We'll hop into a big time discussion here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real reason to do
what do you want to lead us?
So dense.
Let's start off with the main character of this movie. Let's start off with Thanos.
Yep.
What do you guys think of Thanos?
Thanos, and we've already mentioned it, and it shouldn't shock anybody. I actually, you know what? I'm not going to say the obvious thing. I'm going to go even a step further than that. Thanos is one of the greatest villains in pop culture history, period.
That's a fact.
One of the fucking greatest villains in popular media. He is that
Coors Light cold hard
Not
fact.
only is he fucking have had a lasting impact, not only just with audiences quoting everything and him becoming a top character, very popular character and a household name, and a character that no one, like when Avengers 1 came out, no one fucking knew who he was.
You had to look it up.
And even like going forward, no one knew who he was, even up until Guardians. And he was probably a forgettable character. He's the guy at the end of
Avengers.
Now he's a household name. And so not only just that part of his cultural significance, but Thanos is also one of the deepest characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he had to share a movie with every character that has existed in the franchise. I can't... Going into this movie, we have opinions about Thanos going into this movie, but if you remember going into, like, Avengers and everything else, that wasn't the plans. What they ultimately did with this character were not the initial plans they had for the character. Everyone knows that. I mean, probably not everyone knows that, but, like, if you're watching the first Avengers and everything, he's just a totally different character.
Yep. In Guardians, they
don't get a lot.
Killed all of Gamora's homeworld.
Yeah, it's like everything. But what they ultimately decided to do with the character, again, it goes back to what I was talking about the other Russo films. Is they don't like making villains for villains. They love gray area, which is easier said than done to do with in these movies. And they did it so, like, honestly, like some of the best, like, just villain work I've seen in a character ever, to a point where people actually agree. He's convinced real people, that he's right.
He's not.
No, he's not. but he's convinced people that he's right. I know it's a big meme also. But God, he's okay. Well, I'll let you guys talk.
So we're just on Thanos here. Yeah, Thanos is if he's not your number one favorite villain in the MCU, he's always up there. He's fantastic. He's great. There's not much that I could say that Ryan hasn't already said, but yeah, no, I didn't even think about it in those terms, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, like, who else are you going to put up there? I mean, there's certainly great movie villains and pop culture villains.
I didn't say he's necessarily the greatest. I just said he's
up
in conversation.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, like, he's even better than his comic book counterpart than he is in the comics, where it's he's in love with death. This is a person who believes that he's doing right and not just like I'm almost at a loss for words on how good he is. And just because you didn't fully go into this, Josh Brolin absolutely fucking kills the performance.
Absolutely.
Mocap and
this is some Andy Serkis type shit. Level of performance in motion capture.
I mean, and credit to, by the way,
credit to Andy Serkis, because also didn't he have part?
I think it was part of his studio that was probably working on the
he helped out with this, did he not?
Yeah, the visual effects, I don't remember, but I'm sure he did, because I think it's his studio that does the visual effects stuff for those. But visual effects, like, I believed he was a real character. I believed he was there. I was watching behind the scenes stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Thanos isn't a real person. Like, I forgot that's not makeup. Like, it's really fucking good. And everything about him is just fantastic. So sorry, Zach. Let's see if you can pull anything else about Thanos from the two things we just
There's a lot to fucking say about Thanos.
There is so much to say about Thanos. I'm going to talk about Thanos in relation to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and the abuse that I had previously touched on in that movie. Thanos' relationship with Gamora is so complicated, and it's so emotionally intricate that I'm genuinely surprised we saw it in a gigantic blockbuster movie like this. And when he throws Gamora off the side and to get the Soul Stone, and he's weeping, and you almost feel for him, despite the fact that he just murdered a character that you love.
Yeah, you at least can sympathize with the feeling of grief he has.
Yeah, and
even though he's the one that caused it, but like, you can still sympathize with the grief.
It's just mind-blowingly executed. And at the end of the movie, did you do it? What did it cost? Everything. And how he wins. Like, Thanos wins. That's something we also. Like,
if you've ever read the Infinity War comic book, spoiler alert for the Infinity War comic book if you plan on reading it, but he fails at the end. And in fact, actually, what happens at the end of this movie happens actually towards the beginning of that book. But he actually wins, or he loses at the end. And the last scene in that book is him sitting on a farm, looking over everything, and accepting his defeat, and accepting that he was bested.
Yeah.
Even though he really never had been. It was and in this movie, I remember when I saw the fucking movie and that was the last shot, I like wanted to cry. I was like, this is they're ending this movie on the same ending of the fucking comic book, with him sitting on a farm, but not with different circumstances this time around.
Yeah.
Well, it's still winning, but also, in this case, almost still losing. Yeah. Because he still lost,
everything.
Thanos
is, I like how you open that too, because Thanos is the main character of this movie. Yeah. I don't know the statistic. I don't know if he gets the most screen time, but he definitely gets a lot of the. I think he gets. There's a lot of. I'm kind of segue us away from Thanos. I think we touched on a lot of it, and we have to cover a lot in this movie. I think that's not the only place the emotion lives in this movie, because this movie has a lot going on emotionally throughout. And, the movie, say what you will, like, this movie it's hard to kind of put it in, and this is kind of cliche, and I'm just going to say this right now. It's hard to kind of compare this movie to other movies in general, because it has the absolute benefit and the tools that most movies won't have of being able to let the other movies carry some of the load
of other
and kind of piggyback off of that, but then take those ideas in new ways, in new directions, and kind of have these other arcs that kind of form from these other movies, specifically characters like Thor. This movie is very much like a successor or a...
Thor is the second main character in the movie.
Yeah, and
it's a direct... This is almost a direct sequel to Thor Ragnarok. I mean, like...
It takes place right after.
And the Russos worked very closely with Taika Waititi to make sure that it was.
Yeah, and his character very much carries a lot of the same problems as in the last movie. And then opening the movie, like especially finishing Thor Ragnarok, where he's finally accepted that he has to let go of the place that is Asgard and that the Asgardians are what is Asgard. And then opening the movie with, and then finally finding solace with his brother and finally seeing eye to eye and agreeing to bring back Asgard together. And then opening the movie with fucking half, I mean, you know, this is explicitly explained, but half of his people have been murdered, and he watches his brother and best friend die in front of him at the hands of Thanos. It's like creates some of the most emotionally impactful scenes for me, especially, and this is again my love for Thor coming through, which is a recent love.
Yeah.
Especially in these recent movies, I fucking love the character.
I love Thor.
And one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is the reason I opened with a lot of that stuff as well, is the emotional impact of the scene when he's talking to Rocket, and he's trying to let his optimism, his almost blind optimism, shine through, even through everything, and talking to Rocket, and he's like,
he's never
talks about everything, and the Rocket's like, "Are you sure this isn't too personal? Like after you lost everything?" And he kind of like joyfully kind of talks about the whole thing as if like as almost like a mask and trying to stay positive through it. And then him even saying like, "You've already lost to him," and he's like, "Well, he hasn't faced me twice." And it's so heartbreaking. Like his delivery is like he's smiling, but it's like
you can
fucking
see the pain.
heartbreaking.
Yeah,
everything he's lost. They've taken everything from him between these last two movies. And then after, when he kind of breaks and he says like, and he's like, "What if you fail?" And he's like, "I have nothing else to lose."
Mm-hmm.
And again, it also kind of piggybacks off of Guardians 2, where with Rocket is I have a lot to lose.
I have a lot to lose. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. This movie has tons of emotional moments. I actually want to talk about one if you don't mind. And you want to go more into that.
We can move on from here.
So
because this is long and there's a lot of great shit.
This is an emotional moment that I think is also hilarious because of the circumstances. I've told Ryan the story already, but so I was watching. So you guys remember the scene in with where he's like, where Star-Lord is like, "You should have gone right." That scene where Gamora gets captured by Thanos, and it's fucking heart wrenching. So I'm watching this scene. I was watching it with my son, who's almost 2 years old. He's saying words, but he can't really get sentences down. This is my son, not anybody in the movie. So I was watching this movie with my son, and we were watching that scene, and Thanos is got Gamora there, and he's like, "Oh," and he's like, "I told you to go right," and it's so emotional. I'm like fucking welling up. My son doesn't give a shit. But I'm like starting to like tear up and stuff. And then Thanos starts like goading like Star-Lord, and he goes, do it. And I'm like about to like cry. And then my son, who's 2 years old, goes, do it. And then I'm like crying and laughing at the same time. Like it was like that was the most hilarious shit to me, but I was also like crying. It was so fucking bizarre because like that moment like broke, because like I was like, I broke to laughter, but like I also like it was the weirdest mix of emotions. It was fucking hilarious. And my son's just like, do it.
If you don't fucking think, not you specifically, Al,
sure,
but listener, if you think that fucking Peter Quill, Star-Lord, is a bad character in this movie, you're a fucking idiot.
Okay, I was literally about to say, can we fucking get off Star-Lord's case? I'm sick.
He's not perfect.
I'm
That's
sick
the
of
point.
These fucking memes. We have to fucking realize this man thought he lost the love of his life because he had to kill her. He
my God.
He
He's like,
shot
no, you
the
didn't.
gun, so he thought he did it, right? Like, that fucking happens. And then when it doesn't happen, there's almost a sense of relief inside of him. And then to find out that she is dead anyway. We have to get off fucking Star Lord's case.
Where he's like, I had to, and he's like, no, you didn't.
And it's also...
No, you didn't. Oh my God, I want to cry now.
And it's also not even, like, even if you feel like he shouldn't have done what he did anyway, which he, admittedly, obviously, he shouldn't. But actually, right. Well, everyone knows the theories. I'm not going to get into that. But even so, why do all the characters have to be perfect?
Exactly.
He's not a perfect character.
Exactly.
That's his character. None of the Guardians are. He's not a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and
he's
many
human.
characters make mistakes throughout many of the movies. You had brought up to me that like it's literally the same moment for Iron Man in Civil War when he goes after Bucky, even though he's wrong.
He's acting on impulse.
But it's
like his parents were killed.
He found out how his parents were killed by someone who's standing right next to him. I don't know many people who'd be like, oh, I guess it wasn't you. Like, and to me with this moment, it's like if someone took like my wife or my son from me, like those are like the most important things to me. Like, could I keep it cool? Like, I don't think so. I'd like to believe I could save the world on it, but
and he's also like he's getting cheap shots in. He's not like he's not trying to like, he's acting on impulse.
Yeah.
But this whole movie, we can get into the thing that piggybacking off of, and that's the kind of theme of what we're talking about here. Is a lot of things piggybacking off of, and just kind of fulfilling these arcs. And taking them that extra step forward. I love how the movie opens when we get to Stark. When we open with Stark, and it's just a easy conversation, just him talking to Pepper about how wanting a son. And not even necessarily wants a son, but he had a dream that she was pregnant. But he kind of like is hinting that he wants a son, and that's also something that's carried on from Iron Man 3 with the kid in Iron Man 3.
And Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man, how he treats Spider-Man, how he, his relationship with Spider-Man. And more importantly, Iron Man's feelings of guilt and responsibility for the entire world. Yeah. How he feels like he's responsible for everything. And it all started with him. So he takes the whole world on his shoulders. And even in like Civil War and Spider-Man, the way he's protective of Peter also, he's hard, but he's like he doesn't want Peter doing more larger than life stuff. And that's even the beginning of the movie when Peter comes, he's pissed off at him. And then when Peter like kind of blames him for giving him the suit, you see his fucking reaction. And then by the ending, when everyone dies in front of him, which his greatest fear was him not making the call to die for everybody else and everyone dying except for him. And then finalizing with fucking Tom Holland breaking the world's heart.
Oh my God.
With the most heartbreaking scene in the movie, well, at least for me, because I'm a Spider-Man fanboy.
When
Spider-Man, I cried in the theater.
Yep.
We all cried. I teared up when Spider-Man, that fucking ad-libbed scene with fucking Tom Holland crying pleading for life before dying in Tony's arms.
I've also read and seen it from like the Russos that like Robert Downey Jr. like mentored like Tom Holland on like all of this, on learning to be a superhero in these movies and all of that, and like mentored him on that scene and all of it. It's like it's like so the dynamic between them is like so weird because it's like. And I've seen them talk about this. It's like, it's so weird because they're actors and like on most movies, like you do the movie and then, maybe you'll see each other later on down the line. But like for these, like they keep going, you work with them and then you're going to work with them again on the next film. So like the dynamic between them is like this real friendship and like mentorship. And when you see it in that scene, it feels so real. And it's like, I think part of it is because of how real. And that's the thing with every one of these characters with the chemistry is they're all really friends. They've been doing this with each other for 10 years. And this moment, like, it feels so real between the two of them, too.
Yeah. And I think a thing that...
Oh, my God.
Getting away from that a little bit, because I know we've been kind of on this one for a while, and it makes sense, especially because Endgame, I'll get to watch in 2 hours.
Flex
again. You guys. And I think another thing that works so well for this movie, and why I love this movie so much, and especially on this, like, last... I've seen this movie, I don't know how many times. I've seen it a lot of times, but I think one of the things that really works for this movie as well is it feels like the definitive Marvel movie, in my opinion. Yeah. It's not a movie that like we were saying before, like, oh, if someone was new to the Marvel, you might suggest them Avengers. You can't suggest them this. You need at least some knowledge of the characters before going in. But I think what works so well for this movie also, just on its own, is, as I was just said, it feels like the definitive Marvel movie. The comedy is good. I think it's really good. Is it the funniest Marvel movie? No. Is it the movie that every joke make me laugh? No. But does it ever detract from the tone?
No.
Yeah, I thought it was rhetorical. I didn't know.
Was there ever a joke that you felt like it took away? In fact, some of the jokes that are like bittersweet, as I explained with Thor's scene, where he's making jokes, even so, he still hasn't fought me twice, but it's heartbreaking, but it's still like a joke, and it still works. And Peter Quill, when he's holding the gun, he's like, I told you to go right. Like, he kind of says it like jokingly, and then like when he breaks it, he's like, I told you to go right. Like, but it does that really well throughout the movie. It keeps the Marvel tone while also being the fucking darkest Marvel movie by far. I think this movie is just like the definitive, like, and also if I'm looking at this entire list of every single Marvel movie and I'm picking which movie I'm watching, it's Infinity War every time. Like, every time. I can't pick any other movie above it. I guess that was kind of like my final thoughts.
Yeah, that probably takes it, I think.
Yeah, I don't need to add anything else other than our scores. Alan, would you like to give us your score for Avengers Infinity War?
Sure. My score for Avengers Infinity War is an 8.5 out of 10. It's fucking phenomenal.
Ryan?
I'm also giving it an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Not much more to add. Infinity War is great. All right. Moving on to a movie we briefly touched on a little bit when talking about the first in this franchise. We're moving on to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Alan, would you like to give us your brief thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Okay, so when I first saw this movie, I liked it a lot more. With this one, with the second watch, I don't know. I think it might have been that I was a little bit tired when I watched it, but I liked it a little bit less. I still like the movie overall, but for the most part, I found myself going, I like the first one a little bit more, and I felt like this one did a little bit too much, just playing it a little bit too safe on some things, I think. But that's pretty much my brief thoughts on it.
All right, Ryan, your brief thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So I'm weirdly going to be the only person of the three of us that actually likes this one better than Ant-Man 1. I think the reason for that, and I think in a big way, is that this movie understood what scale the movie needed to be on, more so than the last one. I loved that this movie was, like, there wasn't... I guess I've been saying this a lot, so I might be repeating myself a bit. But there wasn't really a bad guy in this movie, except for Walton Goggins' Sonny Birch. But both sides are like, it's not like a fight of good versus evil, and it's not anything about saving the world. It's about saving. They both have a similar goal of saving a person, and both Hank Pym and Bill Foster, Lawrence Fishburne's character, are just too stubborn to help each other, which that could solve everything, but they're too stubborn and they both dislike each other too much. I thought this movie took the characters in better directions than the last one, and it made me like the characters better. And I felt better written altogether, a little less lazy in some of its story beats. And because I think Ant-Man felt like, even though I think the movie's really funny and I love Paul Rudd and I like that movie overall, that movie feels like super just rushed. And I think in a big way is because it was a little bit, because originally it was like going to be a Edgar Wright's film, and they were battling with him for like 6 years until they kind of like quickly got like, I think they brought like, it was like Paul Rudd and like Adam McKay like rewrote it in like a week because Adam McKay was too busy. So they just kind of like quickly put that together, and it worked for what it was. But I think this one takes the characters in more meaningful places, in my opinion. It's not as like, I would definitely agree it's not like as like quippy and snappy as fun as Ant-Man, but I still think like they do more for the characters, I think, especially Hank Pym. They really double down on his like him being an asshole.
Yeah.
He's being basically just a piece of shit, but it helps and it works for the movie. And and he's also, I think he's way better in this movie too. I think like the scene when he was reunited with
Janet.
Janet. Next, sorry, I couldn't even think of the name all of a sudden. When he's reunited with Janet, and like that moment together is great, and I really liked that, and I really liked a lot of what worked for the movie. But again, I agree with you with what I forget who even started, but one of you guys,
Alan.
I think it was Alan that started.
Yeah.
That the movie, it's really it's safe. It's not the best. Like, there's a lot of problems with it. Walton Goggins' character is fine. Some of the jokes were kind of like repeated from the first movie.
Yeah,
which I hate when movies do that.
Yeah, when it's like it's a sequel.
Like they did the whole Luis scene again. Yeah. And it was like, it was kind of funny with the truth serum stuff. And there were some jokes that really made me laugh in this movie, but it was just like, we didn't need to do that joking. And now it's novelty. It's not even a joke anymore. But overall, you know, I was talked pretty positively about the movie, but I don't think it's great.
I don't think this is a bad movie. I saw it the first time. I thought it actually was a bad movie. But watching it a second time, I liked it more than I did originally. I think the first Ant-Man is still a better movie, but there are things I like better in this one. Like, I agree with you about Hank Pym. And I also think that Hope is written better in this movie as well. And I like Hope's character. I agree with you that I enjoy the stakes of the movie more. I think that I like how small it is. And I actually...
Pun intended?
Yes, pun intended. Not intended, actually. I did not intend that. I also enjoy the character of Ava Starr and like what she's going through. And I enjoy that there's not really a bad guy except for Walton Goggins' character. But I felt... I didn't feel connected to whether or not Janet got out. I don't know why that didn't really resonate with me. But like when she got out, I was happy, I guess, because people on the screen were happy. But
I also didn't love the powers. I cared enough about the characters that it made me happy, and I felt for the characters, and I liked that she got back. I just there was. I don't know.
The fact that she could like quickly heal the
powers. And...
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. But for some reason, I didn't feel as emotionally invested in the Janet story as I did like the Ava story. I did feel a lot more invested in the Ava story. And at times that also kind of conflicted with what was going on with the movie, because I often felt like they just shouldn't be doing this. Like,
I think the big thing with them saving Janet was... It wasn't about like Janet. It was about like, even from the first movie, how like desperate the two of them were.
Oh yeah,
and it was something that they found common ground on, even though they were had a lot of differences.
It was really the only way to connect them.
And losing Janet was something that ultimately brought them closer in the end of it all and brought them together. And I think that's why it worked for me. Yeah. And when like they actually like were able to succeed, it was just kind of fulfilling. But like I said, I'm kind of like defending the movie a lot. I don't think the movie's great. I have problems with it, but I guess I'm defending it because it's fun to say because I think it's better than Ant-Man, and I know you guys like Ant-Man better. But
no, yeah, that's
overall, I think the movie is... I watched it and I kind of, like, the first time and I forgot about it. I forgot almost everything that happened in the movie.
Right.
And I would still say the movie's pretty forgettable for the most part, but I think there's some good things here.
I do think it's pretty forgettable. I also think that... I don't know what you guys think about this. I think you're going to disagree with me on this, but Ant-Man himself, Paul Rudd's character, Scott Lang, I think is written entirely differently in this movie. And I don't view it as actual character growth. Like, I don't think he's written differently because of character growth. I just think he's written... I think it's, like, inconsistently how he's written. Like, he's almost a complete moron in this movie at times. Like, and that's not how he was written in the first movie.
I 100% agree. That's one thing that bothers me, I think,
cool. I thought, like, maybe I'd be alone on this,
he is kind of a fuck-up, but they made him, like, an absolute fuck-up.
Yeah, he's supposed to be, like, an incredible... Like, he's at least got to be somewhat smart to be, like, as good of a thief
he also has like...
Yeah,
he's not as smart as them at all.
He has a
degree in engineering.
Yeah. in the first movie, he knew that vault super well and knew to put ice in it to, like,
he also changed the regulator to be able to get to be Giant Man and stuff like that, like or to not to get out of the quantum realm and things like that. So like,
I can agree with that. I mean, I don't know, like I don't know why they would rewrite his intelligence down. I think it was just more for the joke of it all. But yeah,
I agree. I just think it was a little inconsistent. And what's upsetting is because I think Hope and Hank are written so much better that, like, it's just upsetting.
And I think he will be more intelligent again in Endgame because there is no Pym or Hope in Endgame. Well, at least not, like, they were snapped out of existence at the end of this movie in the post credit. So, they won't be there. So I think he'll probably be smart again. And that's a little bit unfortunate. That's going to be super inconsistent, but I would rather see him be smart anyway. So maybe I'm happier with that anyway.
All right, cool. Anybody have any last thoughts for Ant-Man and the Wasp, or can we move on to scores?
I really like the joke where he does the magic trick and then the FBI agent says, Scott, how'd you do it? And he's like, what? The trick. I really actually like that character just in general.
Randall Park.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
There was a really good joke. I also thought it was really good. I thought it was kind of weird, which is why I liked it so much. But the character of Kurt kept referring to the witch lady as the Baba Yaga, and that just kept working for me. So. All right, Alan, what is your score for Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Like I said, when I first watched it, I gave it a 6. I dropped it down a little bit. It's a 5.5 out of 10.
Alrighty, Ryan.
I give it a 6 out of 10.
All right, and I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a 5 out of 10. All right, boys, moving on to Captain...
The last one.
The last one before Endgame, Captain Marvel. Now, boys, we kind of talked about this movie a lot in a previous podcast, but let's hop on in and talk about Captain Marvel. Ryan, do you want to...
Yeah, now we can spoil it.
Yeah, now that we can spoil it.
Yeah, I guess, we couldn't talk spoilers last time. I've seen it twice since, because I wanted to bring my dad, because my dad really likes these movies, and he really wanted to make sure he caught everything before Endgame. So I took him, like maybe a week after it came out, and then I took... and then me and Alan saw it just this last week, yesterday.
Yep.
My opinions about the movie from the first viewing to the second viewing, I liked it better. From the second viewing to the third viewing, I feel the same. So I think I've landed on my consistent feelings for the movie. There's a lot of really good things here. There's a lot of really shoddy things here. But I think overall, I feel comfortable on this being a middle, somewhere in the middle, in the. I don't know. We'll talk. I'll let you guys kind of give your brief opening thoughts first, or also next.
Alan, you would like to give your brief opening thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of did a lot of this. A lot of my stuff is still the same as when we talked about it in the spoiler-free discussion that we did on our podcast a few podcasts ago. But one thing that I'd say that did change for me is I liked Brie Larson's performance a lot less. I don't know that it's her. Last time I blamed writing. This time I'm actually not going to blame writing, but I'm still not going to blame her. I'm going to go ahead and blame directing because I know she's a phenomenal actress.
Why not all three?
Maybe it is all three.
I'm not saying she's a bad actor.
No, I know.
I don't think she's in this movie.
So she clearly, I think, had trouble... I think she had trouble finding her voice in this film, and I don't think the director did a good job to get that out of her. I think that she felt uncomfortable delivering some of the lines, particularly I think some of the more shocked lines about the alien. We talked about the last time we had to be that scene that's a major crux of the movie. It's the part where she is in the crash and she's talking with Annette Bening's character, who's Marvel, and sees that it's Jan-Rog, Jude Law's character, who's actually the villain. It's this big revealing scene. It's acted terribly. And it's acted terribly by her. It's acted terribly by Annette Bening. It's acted terribly by Jude Law. And it's the most important part of the movie. And it's that's the thing. There's multiple moments where it's she's just says things so poorly. And it's I can't believe that was how is that the best take they got? I just don't know.
It's almost oh man. it's almost like emotionless sometimes.
And
it sucks because I know she cares about it, so it's not like she's phoning it in. I don't know. I think they were trying to go for like a blank slate thing, and it just like it came off really bad. But I guess it's not even that. Sometimes when she tries, I don't know.
I think
it's weird because I love Brie Larson. I think like In Room is one of my favorite movies of the past like 5 years.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the performance issues for me extend back to directing and also the whole plot point of amnesia, and I just think that doesn't necessarily work that well or convey that well, at least in this movie. But
I think it's also when she's showing emotion that she has problems. Your blood is blue.
Yeah,
that's a whole scene.
Why is she not shocked?
That whole scene was weird. Alan, I think we talked about it briefly, or at least vaguely, on the last podcast we talked about this. You want to talk about the scene that we both roll our eyes at pretty poorly?
I don't know which one you're talking
about. The reveal scene.
Well, that's what we were just talking about. That whole
yeah.
They just said we were.
I guess you went on the whole thing.
Yeah, no,
I was talking like specifically performances, but you did kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of I totally agree
about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think on every single Annette Bening is really bad. I actually didn't hate her as much this time, but I also still didn't like her. It's just last time I was like, she's just awful.
I think she was pretty bad as the Supreme Intelligence as well. I didn't think Annette Bening was very good. I agree too.
See, I didn't hate her as much in the Supreme Intelligence.
Good tunes.
Music, nice touch.
You don't see me. Yeah, you don't see. That's what it is. You don't see me doing the dance moves. I understand. Whatever. It's going for like kind of like a not real human thing, but it's like, no. I don't want to talk like all negatives. The visual effects are really good.
Yep.
Like all together, except for one shot, but the shot where she's like falling down. But overall, the VFX are like really, really on point on this one. Yeah,
absolutely.
You can tell they brought their A team on this one.
Oh, and I've checked because last time we had like a little bit of a debate about it. I've checked since then. Here's where the confusion was. Okay, because last time we talked about visual effects. Last time we talked about visual effects,
de-aging, isn't he?
Yes, we were talking about the de-aging thing, and I had said I wondered if it was mostly makeup rather than VFX. First off, you guys were right. This is pretty much all VFX for Nick Fury. Here's where the confusion was. When Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out, Kurt Russell had gone out and said it's actually almost no CGI. It's pretty much all makeup.
When he de-aged.
When they de-aged Kurt Russell. The VFX team has since come out and said, no, that's not true. It's like 20% makeup, 80% de-aging through VFX. So even that isn't true.
That'd be fucking magic from the makeup team.
Yeah, so it's not. And also, I didn't even think about it. Samuel L. Jackson's de-aged, but also Coulson is de-aged.
Yeah.
Craig's Coulson. I didn't even think about that. Like, he and it shows. I just didn't even think about it.
Marvel fucking kills this de-aging shit. Like, they fucking kill it.
It never feels incorrect.
Sometimes it's a little weird, but it's really hard to get faces right. Like when you see Tony when he's young in Civil War, it looks a little odd.
Yeah.
Odd enough that like any little thing can make it.
You wouldn't watch an entire movie with it, but
no. It still works for that scene though. So I think we're all neglecting to talk about the best part of the movie, which I think we can all agree is Talos.
Yes.
And the twist in general.
Yep.
Talos is such a good character.
I love Talos. Yes.
Like Ben Mendelsohn really brought it with this, and it kind of fit perfectly. And I kind of love how it played on the like expectations that Ben Mendelsohn always plays a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he turned out not to be the villain by the end of it all.
Yeah.
And I loved like him kind of like the scene when he's actually pleading to them that especially pleading to Carol that like you have to see this. They're playing you. They've played us this whole time. Like I thought that was excellent, and I thought like he like really brought it. And I loved like kind of the reason they had to go. What ultimately decided. Although I don't understand why he didn't just tell her that.
Yeah,
that would have motivated her like a little more. I mean, not instantly, but like
I don't know that you.
Why else would he want to get there? Why couldn't he just be like, oh, my whole family, but our entire race is up there. My family's up there.
Yeah.
That's why we're going there. I don't know why I didn't bring that up, but whatever. It's a movie. You don't have to. And I was going to say...
Lashana Lynch is amazing.
Lashana Lynch
is amazing.
The few scenes she has, she does an excellent job. Like, honestly, kills her scenes.
Like absolutely X circles around.
I don't get no emotion in the whole movie from Brie Larson. Sorry, I'm getting tired. We've been talking for a while. From Brie Larson. But Lashana Lynch is like incredible in her scenes.
Yeah.
The only scenes I think that made me feel emotion for Carol Danvers is like the flashback scene where she's standing up. And the kind of the resilience of her and the human race.
Yeah.
And the kind of I just thought that was excellent.
You know what
kind of hardship she has because she's a woman, you know.
You know what's one scene I like with her, and probably the only scene I like with Jude Law in it, is the final like scene where he's like, it's all been leading to this moment where you knock me down without your powers, and then she just shoots him. It's like I don't have to prove anything to you.
Exactly. I think that's really live by this in these movies.
I think that's really good. Yeah, I mean, like Captain America gets goaded into not using his shield when on Winter Soldier. It's like he didn't have to.
And T'Challa gets into going into the fight with with Killmonger. Like you didn't have to do it. You were already the king.
To sort of defend a little bit for just a couple seconds here. I did there are most of the time I didn't really feel any connection with Carol, and especially with like Carol and the other side characters. There are a couple moments where her and Fury play off each other really well.
Yes,
but there's just a couple. I just wanted to say like there
I personally didn't love Nick Fury in this movie. I thought they made him too much of a cheeseball. Like I'm cool with the comedy and whatever, but like I understand he was younger.
He is a bunch of a cheeseball.
But he is like compare him in this to Winter Soldier. I understand by Winter Soldier it's a big difference between that point in his life and the point where he is.
Yeah, I think this was supposed to show how he got there, but yeah, I can see what you mean.
But like I don't know, really I just way prefer that version of Nick Fury.
I agree.
This movie didn't even feel like Nick Fury is what I'm saying. I'm not saying like, oh, you can't open up, but it's like it felt like a different character.
Like Samuel L. Jackson, though.
The only scene that I felt like it was in any way similar was when he was talking about like, you know, what they call you, Fury, like, you know, that's the only part for me.
For the record, I'm pretty sure Maria Hill calls him Nick all the time. Like I know that he says like people only call me Fury, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Maria Hill call him Nick.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's hop into scores. Alan, what is your score for Captain Marvel?
I am going to give Captain Marvel a 6 out of 10. I still really like it.
Fantastic. Ryan?
I'm also giving Captain Marvel a 6 out of 10.
I'm right along with you guys. I'm going to give Captain Marvel a 6 out of 10. All right, boys. Fantastic. We watched all of the MCU movies.
We did it.
We did it. So this next thing is I think we should sit down here and actually rank all of the MCU movies. We rated them, we discussed them, we talked about them, but let's give our rankings. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. Honestly, let's just read our lists. We can explain things if we want to talk about maybe the top one or so, but like I think we should just sort of
spoiler alert, we all have a different favorite.
Ooh.
Okay.
Just to keep you watching.
So Alan, do you want to go first and rank your MCU movies?
I'll go from the bottom to the top. So the 21st best or the worst film that I had in the MCU is Thor: The Dark World. I gave a 3 out of 10. The second worst film that I had in there is The Incredible Hulk. Same score, 3 out of 10. Then the third worst or the 19th best, Iron Man 2, gave a 3.5 out of 10. Then, and this is sad for Zach and Ryan, my number 18 film, the fourth worst film that I have in the MCU, Guardians of the Galaxy, I gave a 4 out of 10. What's great about this, though, is that from here on out, all of the films that I have are positives. Iron Man 3 is the next film. I gave a 5.5. Doctor Strange at number 16, I gave a 5.5 out of 10 as well. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 5.5 out of 10. Number 15. Number 14, Thor, gave a 6 out of 10. Number 13, we just talked about it, Captain Marvel, I gave a 6 out of 10. Number 12, Avengers Age of Ultron, I gave a 6.5 out of 10. Number 11, Captain America, the First Avenger, also gave a 6.5 out of 10. And now we're down to the top 10. And these ones are all 7 and above, which I kind of like. Ant-Man, think it's very funny. We talked about it earlier. Gave it a 7 out of 10. That is my number 10 film. Number 9, I have Thor Ragnarok. Really fucking funny film. We were just quoting it for the entire review of it all. 7.5 out of 10, I gave that one. Number 8, I give to Black Panther. 7.5 out of 10. Just, I guess, barely squeaks out of the top third of it, but I love that movie. Number 7, I have the original Avengers film. I give that an 8 out of 10. Number 6, I have the first Iron Man film. I gave that an 8 out of 10. We talked a lot about all these, so I don't need to get into too much on it. But now we're on to the top 5. Number 5, I give to Captain America the Winter Soldier. I gave an 8.5 out of 10. That one might drop to an 8 out of 10 as I think more on it, but I still really enjoy it. And that's sort of like, spy.
It was all the holes in the wall, wasn't it?
It was the holes
in the ground.
Holes in the ground, the plot holes in the ground. But then there's Avengers Infinity War. I gave an 8.5 out of 10. That was my number 4 pick. Spider-Man Homecoming, I gave an 8.5 out of 10. That's my number 3. Number 2, so last week I had said that this was my number 1. Guardians of the Galaxy, I gave a 9 out of 10. And number 1, which I kind of spoiled at the beginning of this, Captain America Civil War, I gave it a 9 out of 10. I love that movie. It's the best that the MCU can give you. And we'll move on to Ryan or Zach.
Fantastic. That great list down. Ryan, would you like to give us your ranking of the MCU?
Sure. So my number 21 pick is The Incredible Hulk.
Ugh.
My number 20 pick is Iron Man 2. My number 19 pick is Thor: The Dark World. My number 8, those were all under 5. I'll start reading the scores when I get to like top 10. My number 18 film is Iron Man 3. My number 17 film is Thor, the 2011, the first one. Number 16 is Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 15 is Captain Marvel. Number 14 is Doctor Strange. Number 13 is Ant-Man. Number 12 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 11 is Captain America, the First Avenger. So now we're on to my top 10. Number 10, I have Black Panther, which I gave a 7 out of 10. I talked a little bit about it in there. I think the character work, especially with Killmonger, carries it. One of the best villains in the MCU. Maybe probably number 2. The next is number 9. I have The Avengers, which is the first Avengers film. I gave that one also a 7 out of 10. One of the most fun movies you can watch. But not the most fun, but one of the most fun you can watch. Number 8, I have Thor Ragnarok, which, as Alan was putting it, it's just really quotable. It's really funny, and I think it handles the character of Thor better than any movie has to this point. Number 7 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Much lower than I had initially before I started this 2 weeks of watching these movies. I still love the movie, and there's still a lot of things that are really great. I give that a 7.5 out of 10. Number 6, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Zach, I think, put it pretty perfectly when he was talking about it. The movie has a lot to offer, and I love how just genuinely original it is. I give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Number 5, I have Iron Man. One of my favorites, the movie that started it all, and it is just honestly a joy to sit through. I have Iron Man with an 8 out of 10. Number 4, I have Captain America Civil War. I definitely appreciate this movie a lot. And we talked about this one maybe the longest. This is one of the ones we talked about the longest. It's just a super solid movie, and the Russos are really finding their footing with this one. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Number 3, I have Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm a Spider-Man fanboy. What can I say? They got the character right. I love it. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Number 2 was also the thing I had number 1 last week. Is Guardians of the Galaxy. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I talked about it a lot last week. If you want to hear my thoughts, go on there. We all praised it a lot. It's honestly, I would say, probably the best standalone Marvel movie, period. Like one that you don't need to see any other Marvel movie. I think it's just a solid standalone film. And number 1, which was not my number 1 going into these 2 weeks, is Avengers Infinity War. I give that one an 8.5 out of 10. I said it when we were talking about Avengers Infinity War. It's the movie that, like, if I'm going to choose to watch any of these movies at any given time, it's always going to be Infinity War. I think it does the most for the characters emotionally. I think it is the most ambitious film by far, and the fact that it's able to succeed is honestly insane. It's hard for me to compare it to like regular film or anything like that because it's really its own thing. It's kind of its own beast altogether. So I definitely say that this movie is, I feel like it has to be the top dog. So yeah, there you go.
Excellent. My list is coming in at number 21 is The Incredible Hulk, which I gave a 3 out of 10. Number 20 is Thor: The Dark World, which I gave a 4 out of 10. Number 19 is Iron Man 2, which I gave a 4 out of 10. Number 18 is Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I gave a 5. Now from number 18 up, they're all positive. Number 17, Doctor Strange with a 5.5. Number 16, Avengers Age of Ultron with a 6. Number 15, Thor with a 6. Number 14, Captain Marvel with a 6 out of 10. Number 13, Iron Man 3 with a 6.5. Number 12, Ant-Man with a 7 out of 10. Number 11, Captain America, the First Avenger with a 7 out of 10. Number 10, Black Panther with a 7 out of 10. Number 9, The Avengers with a 7.5 out of 10. Number 8 is Thor Ragnarok with a 7.5 out of 10. Number 7 is Iron Man with an 8 out of 10. Number 6 is Captain America, the Winter Soldier with an 8.5 out of 10. I'm with Alan there where I could see this number actually dropping. What's interesting is I had always said that was my favorite one. So it's interesting to me how that's dropped pretty low. Number 5 is Spider-Man Homecoming with an 8.5 out of 10. Now, this number 5, 4, and 3 could switch on any given day. Actually, 5 and 4 could switch on any given day. I think 3 is pretty solidified. Number 4, I have Captain America Civil War with an 8.5 out of 10. Number 3, I have Avengers Infinity War with an 8.5 out of 10. And honestly, I can see that movie even raising in score. I absolutely love Infinity War. It's an incredible movie. Number 2, I have my biggest surprise of this 2 weeks. I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at a 9 out of 10. And finishing off the MCU list for myself is Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, with a 9 out of 10. So, yeah, that was my list.
Yeah, we ranked them. We ranked them all.
We did it.
Yeah, we have different... Oh, well, we all have a different first pick. So, I think... So we're going to do 2 Twitter polls because we'll get into the next one next. But why don't we do... I think we talked about this. We'll do a Twitter poll with what is your favorite Marvel movie? We'll put mine. We'll put Captain America Civil War. We'll put Ryan's, which is Avengers Infinity War. We'll put yours, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. And then for the 4th pick, and we'll release this poll a little bit later, for the 4th pick, we'll do Avengers Endgame. And we'll see where that goes, where people, I mean, you know, I haven't seen the movie yet. Ryan will be seeing the movie in like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, I gotta leave somewhat soon. This podcast went on way longer than expected, but I'm still thrilled about it.
So, we'll go ahead and if you're listening,
I don't have to leave for another 40 minutes.
Thursday, if you're listening to this on Thursday or later, the poll should be up on our Twitter, and it'll be what is your favorite? Which I guess maybe we'll do it as which of these 4 is the best. I don't know. Because it's
which of these 4 is the best? Yeah,
but we'll see how it goes.
So,
but yeah,
Alan, can you quickly explain what our next Twitter poll is going to be? And the final poll here of our Twitter poll gauntlet for favorite MCU character.
Sure. Okay. So, trying to make this quick because I don't want to take too much time. We've covered so long. This episode, I was trying to do like a Peggy Carter thing.
Oh,
it's been so long.
The reason this episode's called RAZZLEcast Endgame is because this is also 3 hours long.
So anyway, the first, so what we did is we decided to do 6 polls last week and take the 4 highest vote getters from those polls and this week we're going to take those 4 winners and put them against each other. So there were 6 polls. Without further ado, I'm going to get to the results on every poll, and then I'll tell you who got the final 4 slots. Okay, the first poll was Captain America versus Nebula versus Groot versus Rocket Raccoon, and Captain America took the win in poll number 1. Poll number 2 was between Iron Man and Valkyrie and Falcon and Star-Lord, and Iron Man pulled out with a resounding victory against all of those. Poll 3 was between Thor and Drax and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, where Thor dominated in his poll. Poll 4 was between Hulk and Wasp and Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel, where Captain Marvel pulled up the upset, beating Hulk a little bit closer, but Captain Marvel pulls up the upset, wins that poll. Poll 5 was between Spider-Man and War Machine and Vision and Doctor Strange, where Spider-Man dominated that poll pretty handily. Pretty surprising. I thought Doctor Strange would put up more of a fight. And poll number 6 was the closest poll. That was between Black Panther and Gamora and Ant-Man and Black Widow. Black Panther won that one in a close margin against Black Widow. So that brings us to who were the big winners, who were the final 4, because 2 of these winners cannot move on because there can only be 4 in the polls. That being said, the final poll for who is your favorite Marvel
These are
MCU
by who got the most
Avenger.
votes, by the way.
Yes.
It's not random or anything like that. It's like who got the most votes moves on.
Yep. So the final poll is between Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel. And I was shocked by that. I swore
awesome.
Captain America was going to get in, just barely missed out. Captain Marvel sneaks into the poll, and I'm very excited to see. Go on Twitter. We have the poll will be up by the time you listen to this podcast. Vote on this. I want to know who your favorite Marvel Avenger is, and I'm very excited to see.
I think
the results of this one.
I think it's pretty cool that a character that was just introduced so recently into the MCU can get in this. So I think that's pretty sweet.
Both our favorite guys, Zach, didn't make it in. My boy Hulk didn't even win his poll. Your guy just missed out.
My boy Cap.
We'll see where it goes.
All right, excellent, boys. Well, I think we'll skip weekly retrospective this week because we're running about 3 hours long. So we will hop on down to plugs. Do you guys have anything you would like to plug here today before we say so long, Alan?
Listen to last week's episode so that you can make this like a 5-hour long journey of listening to this. But I think it's been super fun just for us to go back to this. But otherwise, check me out on Twitter at Alan Havens. That's ALANHAVENS.
Yep, you could binge the 21 movies in the MCU and then our 2 addendums. So anyway, Ryan, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
I just like to say, overall, I couldn't think of a more fun way to prepare for Avengers Endgame tonight than talking about all these movies with my best friends. It was fun. So
had to flex again.
Yeah, I had to throw that one more time because I'm gonna watch Avengers Endgame in like an hour.
Check out Ryan's Twitter.
Yeah, check out my Twitter at Ryan_Havens. You can check it out right now. My review, or my Twitter review, my short thoughts, because I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to get into any specifics of any kind. I'm just going to give you my brief thoughts. Check them out on there.
Fantastic. You can follow me on Twitter at IamMauer. If you enjoyed how I talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, please go on YouTube and check out Lindsay Ellis's thoughts on the film. She's a lot smarter than I am, and she can convey a lot of the things that I was feeling. And Movies with Mikey's thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie. Both videos are incredible, and they're both a lot smarter than I am. I can tell you all of the amazing subtext and everything in these 2 great movies. Also, please check out Razzle's Twitter, twitter.com/RazzleReview. Everything we discussed will be in the description box down below. Please go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/RazzleReviews. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Please rate our show on any of your favorite podcast app. Whatever you listen on, rate the show. If you have an iPhone or an Apple device, well, RazzleCast is now Siri compatible. All you have to do is just say, "Hey Siri, play RazzleCast," "Hey Siri, play the newest episode of RazzleCast," or "Hey Siri, subscribe to RazzleCast." If you want to be on the show, please call into the Razzle line. Our phone number is 267-343-9255. 772-644-5353. Leave a 15-second detailed message with any thoughts, comments, concerns, anything you would like to possibly get on the show. That'd be great. Again, phone number is in the description box down below. Thank you all for joining us on this amazing Razzle rewatch. I cannot wait to check out Avengers Endgame, and we really appreciate that you guys are joining in on our friendship here. So thank you again, and have a great day.
Assemble.